It's time for Intelligent Machines. Jeff Jarvis is here. Paris is traveling, so Mike Elgin joins us. He has lots to say. Our guest this week is Gary Rivlin. He's just written a new book, really interesting, History of AI. It's called AI Valley. Gary Rivlin and our interview next on IM.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Intelligent Machines, episode 812, recorded Wednesday, March 26th, 2025. A choir of sentient cabbages. It's time for Intelligent Machines, the show where we look at what's happening in the world of, well, intelligent machines, AI, robots, IoT. It's all around us, literally. Paris is in Paris. I'm sorry to say, Paris Martineau from The Information is literally in Paris this week, but that's okay. Mike Elgin is here, and he, oddly enough, is in the United States. So that's
who'd have thought?
Really unheard of. Mike, of course, is a gastronomad, and his gastronomad adventures are fantastic at gastronomad.net. His newsletter, all about AI, machinesociety.ai. Great. You're perfect for this show. So glad to have you on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to do it.
Of course, Jeff Jarvis is here, Professor Emeritus of Journalistic Innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. Newmark. Emeritus. You got a big emeritus stamp for him. Just leave that up the whole show, Benito. He is now at Montclair State University and SUNY Stony Brook. Nice to have you, the author of the Gutenberg Parenthesis, his newest, The Web We Weave. And do you know Gary Rivlin? Do you want to introduce Gary?
No, you should go ahead and introduce Gary.
Right.
But I want to mention quickly that Gary is also friends with our friend Craig Newmark. It's in the book. Yes.
All New Yorkers know one another, I believe. So that's why. That would explain it. Hello, Gary. Gary is a longtime Silicon Valley writer for Wired and the industry standard, if you want to bring back memories of the past. And he is author of many books, including Why is Everybody Trying to Kill Bill Gates? Which
okay, it's called The Plot to Get Bill Gates.
Okay, all right, something like that. The plot. Yes, the plot to get Bill Gates. And his newest, which I think is fantastic, is AI Valley. Came out yesterday. He'll be in San Francisco on book tour on Thursday. Menlo Park, California, April 2nd, April 3rd, back in San Francisco, the 15th. In beautiful downtown Albany, New York. So, and March 25th is was that yesterday? That was yesterday. So we've missed that one at Barnes and Noble in Manhattan. Great to see you, Gary, and thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Looking forward to it.
You you talk in the book about how actually this is in the epilogue. Randall Strauss convinced you not to write the book you were writing, but write this book instead. And I had to know, what were you writing that you abandoned?
I didn't really. I had written a proposal. I hadn't gotten very far with it, but I certainly would have been ahead of the times. I want to do a book about Mark Andreessen.
Oh.
Understanding the Valley, for better and for worse, through Andreessen's story, and this would have been 2022. By that point, he had shifted towards the right. He hadn't sprinted all the way to the right at that point. So, the problem was that he was so hostile to the mainstream media, I guess what he would call the legacy media, that I knew I wouldn't get him to participate. I had interviewed him before. We had a good relationship, but that was back in the 2000s. And, the idea of like fighting for every interview, trying to do the right around, tell his story without his involvement, and then suddenly AI. So this was the end of 2022, right before ChatGPT came out. I just randomly got an email from Reid Hoffman, a batch email, announcing that he was going to co-found his first startup since LinkedIn, and I just was really intrigued. So just kind of had lucky timing.
I'm so glad you can. Can I just add in there? I'm so glad that you've made Reid Hoffman central to this, because I think he is one of the good guys in the oft maligned Silicon Valley. He is the connector of connector, and full disclosure is he helped fund my engagement journalism program. But he's a public intellectual by his own description. He's a good guy and a nice guy, and I think it's just great to see him at the center of how he operates.
Yeah, a billionaire you can root for.
Yeah. Amen.
Well, it depends on what side of the aisle you're on, but yes, I think you're in good company here. Yeah, he's kind of the backbone of the book, and it's Reed bouncing off various people and various companies that becomes the story. It's a history, really, of AI starting. I was surprised back in 1956 with John McCarthy and the first AI conference, and coming right up to the present. Although it's got to be challenging. You wrote the book at the epilogue, I think, is dated 2024. It's the end of the last year. Publishing, being the speedy enterprise that it is finally got the book out yesterday. It doesn't seem out of date, which is good, but it's going to be out of date in 6 months or a year. I mean, this is a very fast moving topic.
Yeah, I mean, I clearly I was well aware of that. For instance, DeepSeek had not come out by the time, or the latest iteration had not come out. But I don't know. I really was trying to tell a different story. I don't think you're going to want to pick up my book to learn the details of Claude 3.7.
No, that's what we're here for. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And so I was just trying to tell the story, how we got here, where we're at, what it means through these emblematic characters. Reid Hoffman, as we've mentioned, Mustafa Suleyman, kind of one of the big names in AI.
I learned his nickname in college was Moose, which I thought was very useful.
I don't think he likes it anymore. When I asked him
I doubt he does.
Gave me a funny look and yeah, we're not using that anymore. But, didn't have to throw that in there. And and then the usual suspect. In fact, weirdly, the first two words of the book, and I wrote the opening, I don't know, a year ago, 14 months ago, are Elon Musk. I start off with this dinner in 2015 between Musk and Reid Hoffman, and Musk by that point had put money in DeepMind, and he saw, I would give him credit, he saw what was starting to happen in AI. He had this weird perspective where he's an investor, and he was also its loudest critic. It's going to destroy humanity. The robots are going to take over, and meanwhile, I own a piece of these very aggressive companies trying to advance this stuff. But so it starts off with a dinner where Musk basically convinced Hoffman, who at Stanford more or less studied artificial intelligence, hey, it's time. This is starting to happen. And so that kind of launches the rest of the story, with Hoffman getting involved as he would as a funder, and then ultimately starting his own company.
One of the things that interests me, and so it really is a history of AI, but one of the things that really interested me is how many of these people were not really coders. Many of them weren't even computer scientists. Often they were philosophy majors and the like. Obviously, they could hire coders, but it seems like AI has been driven not so much by people who deeply understand computing, but by people who have kind of a dream. You even mentioned the impact of science fiction. I think Reid Hoffman talked about that in all of this.
That was one of the big surprises to me. I guess I assume, like you assume, that was computer scientists.
Right.
But, it's, mathematicians, right? These things are just enormous mathematical models. But beyond that, a wide range. Philosophers you mentioned, but physicists, a lot of physicists.
A lot of physicists. In fact, the guy we talked to last week is a theoretical physicist. Yeah. Anthony, I forgot his name.
Aguirre.
Jeff won't let me forget Aguirre. You actually mentioned early on Future of Life Institute is in the book as well. Yeah.
But cognitive psychologist. It surprised me, but then of course it makes sense. Artificial intelligence is programming, it's computers, but it's far more than that. It's like understanding the brain. The big breakthrough, as I'm sure most of your listeners know, was going from hard coding rules to trying to create these neural networks that mimic the brain. So those who are studying the brain, it made sense. But again, I was like you. I just figured it was computer scientists. What I find most interesting about the history was the absurd optimism of people like John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, the early pioneers. AI was just around the corner for 70 years. You'd read what they wrote in the 50s, you'd read what they write in the 60s or 70s, and they were always just a few years away. And of course, they were more like 50 years away from where they thought they were.
Yeah. I mean, that one of the things I like about the book is really getting to kind of almost meet these personalities. I didn't know, for instance, I had long thought highly of Marvin Minsky, but I didn't realize he really, in some respects, computer scientists in general steered AI wrong for a long time. At least 2 or 3 of the AI winters were because Minsky had insisted, no, you've got to do symbolic rules-based AI. Trying to mimic the brain is a mistake. And he really influenced the AI community for decades because of that.
I mean, he mocked people who were pushing the neural networks. I mean, I call it like a 50-year mistake. I mean,
yeah.
On the other hand, computers weren't powerful enough, back in the 90s, 2000s, to power these neural networks. I mean, you had to have several things happen beyond the realization that neural networks was the way. There wasn't enough digital data, to train these models. So, it was a wrong turn that lasted around 50 years. But on the other hand, I think if there wasn't that wrong turn, there still would have been a long, long delay before we got anything remotely like we would get in the second half of the
we couldn't have had the internet we couldn't have had AI or generative AI without the internet, right? Without the access to the complete compilation of human speech.
Yeah, the digitalization of everything.
Right.
You talk about Frank Rosenblatt, who was kind of widely considered the father of these neural networks, and his first machine, the Perceptron. This is in the 60s, right? And I think Rosenblatt ended up being kind of cast aside because of Minsky, saying, no, there's nothing there. These neural networks, they aren't going anywhere. It's kind of a sad story, really.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a not so uncommon story. The lonely pioneer in the wilderness, who's the true believer, and others are mocking them. They're not believing them. But Rosenblatt himself, it's funny. We all came of age, all of us on this call, around writing about tech, more or less the same time. And, I kind of thought concepts like vaporware were relatively new. This idea that you sell the concept before you've built, or you sell the product before you figured out the product. But that was Rosenblatt. I mean, he was piling it up, just making claims that were not true. And so, I think he got himself in trouble by overpromising, as many others, Minsky included, would do around AI.
1958, New York Times. New Navy device learns by doing. The New Yorker. It strikes us as the first serious rival to the human brain ever devised. I'm quoting from the new book, which is a must-read, Gary Rivlin's AI Valley. There it is. I told him every time I say that, hold up the book.
Out today.
Out today. So at what point did people start to suddenly realize, no, symbolic, and by the way, we had Stephen Wolfram on not so long ago, and he said, no, he's still in that mindset, but neural networks can't do it all. We need symbolic AI. It's going to be some combination of the two. Of course, his Wolfram Alpha is essentially symbolic AI. At what point did people start to say, no, you know what? This neural network has promise?
Well, I mean, there were more lonely pioneers, famously Jeff Hinton, a few others, who were pushing this for,
He's the
90s.
father of modern neural networks, isn't he, Jeffrey Hinton? Yeah,
I would say the same thing. They're the three godfathers, but to me, Hinton is first among the equals there. But it was like in the 2010s, the first half of 2010s. That's when it really started to pivot. There was the famous ImageNet contest. Feifei Wu from Stanford had this contest, and that's when famously Jeff Hinton and a couple of his graduate students, entered the contest with a neural network.
Ilya Sutskever, among others. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah, and
they bested all the rule-based models, and that really got people's attention. The idea that rather than putting down the code, this is a cat showing a million pictures kind of thing. This was like, set it loose, let it read, and it could more accurately identify animals than any of the rule-based systems. So that really got people's attention. But, this is science. It does move slowly. So it was 2013, 2014, 2016. And, I feel by then that neural networks became, the main focus for most people. Then the famous Transformer paper, the T and GP ChatGPT came out. What was that, 2016, 2017?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
And
2017.
And that really showed the potential for these chatbots. Something I did not know until I started doing this research. Artificial intelligence has been around for a long, long time. We've been using it. We just didn't know it. It's like, in the 2000s, Google was using it to figure out how to price their ads. Google Translate's been around since 2015. That's AI. But generative AI, this idea that you can talk to a chatbot, that you could ask it through a prompt to make a drawing, to make a video, that really changed things. So to me, the Transformer paper coming out was the beginning of the revolution that we're now all seeing, what the general public is now seeing.
I have a question about the Transformer paper. Before that, I want a little defense of Wolfram Alpha, Stephen Wolfram. He says that neural networks can't do it all, and the reason he knows that is because the best chatbots, you ask them certain questions, and they're like, we better ask Wolfram Alpha, and then they kick over to and Wolfram Alpha figures it out and sends it back. But anyway, the Transformer architecture, I've always been fascinated by that pivotal moment in 2022 when OpenAI opened this thing up. Do you feel like Google or some of the other companies felt blindsided? All these companies have been working on these things and felt like it wasn't ready for the public. It wasn't ready for prime time. It might be a little dangerous, all that kind of stuff. And nobody was really publishing public access to their tools. Then the revolution hit when OpenAI had the boldness to actually do that, based in large part on Google's work with the GPT concept. So, do you have a sense in the industry of what the other companies were thinking when OpenAI did that?
Yeah, that was a big part of my reporting. I blame it on Tay. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh, yeah.
That was the Microsoft bot that decided that Jews started 9/11. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Holocaust denying.
Yeah.
So Microsoft puts this thing out. It was trained more or less on social media.
That's the problem. Of course, people gamed it immediately and said, let's see if we can turn this into a Nazi.
And they pulled it, within 24 hours, and Microsoft immediately pulled it, and it was like this specter hanging over all the big tech companies. They're all so Google had they called it Mina. It would change names, but they had Mina in 2020, and so Mina was basically ChatGPT, but they were scared of it. There were people, Mustafa Suleyman, main character in my book. And so it was
good shot. That's good. Don't you hold it up longer though. People have to really read the title there.
So
we're training Gary. The book only came out yesterday. He's got a lot of interviews coming up. We're just teaching him. You got to hold the book
up. I appreciate that. And so Suleiman, others inside of Google were so frustrated. We have this amazing thing,
Mina. I don't even remember Mina.
Because they didn't put it out there. And so they, in fact, Suleiman ended up quitting Google and co-founding with Reid Hoffman, Inflection, an amazing company not rest in peace, it still exists, but it had the amazing Pi, which is PI, which is my favorite, was my favorite of all the chatbots. But anyway, it's like, Google was scared of it. Microsoft was scared of it. I would talk to people there and just like, we wanted to just advance this stuff, but it had to be a startup. It had to be a company that didn't have $100 billion in revenues on the line. So I don't think it was any coincidence that the first company that had the daring, or whatever you want to call it, to put this out was a startup.
Gary,
although hold up that book again, because the subtitle is fairly important.
Yeah.
Microsoft, Google, and the $1 trillion race to cash in on artificial intelligence, because the bitter moral of this book seems to be, You start out like anyone would. Oh, it's going to be the startups. It's going to be the garages. It's going to be the small guys who come up with a brilliant idea. It turned out to be so expensive. It's only the big guys who can play this game, really.
I started this book beginning of 2023, and it was like I was going to tell it all through startups. I'm fascinated by startups. Who isn't, right? The venture capital, the daring, like you have this idea, and this dream of being the next Google, whatever. But I discovered through my reporting, like, it's Microsoft, it's Google, it's Meta. That's my big fear here, that the same tech giants that have been dominating for the last 10 or 20 years are going to dominate AI because it's so expensive. And, you have Anthropic out there with Claude, another favorite chatbot of mine. And, I think they've raised about $20 billion so far, $4 billion or so from Amazon, maybe more by this point, Google billions of dollars. So even if Anthropic wins, they're in part owned by the giants. And beyond that, Dario Amodei, the CEO, is predicted by 2027, it's going to cost $100 billion to train one of these things. Like, there was 160 billion thrown into AI startups from venture capitalists in 23 and 24 combined. $100 billion, like a large venture capital fund is $1 billion. And so I do wonder, in fact, Suleiman, near the end of the book, he concludes that none of these consumer chatbots could make it on their own, that they'll eventually be gobbled up, bought, acquired by a giant.
This is why Apple is so hopeful, I think, with their now kind of mediocre AI play, but they know that eventually they'll be the only company that can afford it.
And they're on, how many a billion iPhones? I mean, they have the reach, and that, I mean, ditto Meta. Zuckerberg, who, Meta, or back then Facebook and Google, were the two companies working on neural networks before anyone else. They had a huge lead, and they too, Facebook too, was scared to put this out, and so they were caught flat-footed. They were paying attention to the metaverse, etc. That didn't help. They went the open source way. But he made a claim in 2024 that within 6 months will be the most popular chatbot on the planet. And in a way, he's right, because billions of people use his various platforms, and it's available. I would argue, like, it's available, but only a fraction use it, as opposed to the 300 or whatever million people who actually go to ChatGPT to use their model. But, you could be late. I wouldn't count out Amazon. I would not count out Apple, just because they have the reach and they have the funds.
Gary, I'm curious. I'm curious about a lot of things. Let me ask you this. This sense of the need for scale, if you go to the Stochastic Parrots paper, they argued that going for huge models was a folly. DeepSeek, we think, might say that could be the case, that they could be smaller. Is it a case? When I worked for Time Inc., they thought, well, if it costs the most in the world, it has to be the best because we're spending the most money.
Right.
Is there a little bit of that in the American ethos here? Is there a chance that you don't need to be that huge, that you don't really need $100 billion to train a model?
Yeah, I mean, that's an open question. I guess I'd play journalist on this to kind of give the arguments. I mean, first off, I thought DeepSeek, I thought it was really overstated. Inflection was using smaller models. Other companies out there were using smaller models. Like, do we really need the huge system to answer all of our questions? No. Why? Let's send some simpler questions to these smaller models. They use less compute. They're cheaper and all. But I think that if you could do it for 1/10 the price, then you're going to make 10 times larger models. I think that's, this thing called Jarvin's paradox is kind of dates back to the 19th century in coal. But I think it's true today that, these are engineers. They do it because they can do it. They want to make it as big as they can. But it's an open question. I don't know. I'm convinced that it might not be as expensive as people thought, like as Amodei said with Claude, Anthropic, I mean. But on the other hand, I'm convinced it's going to be a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like DeepSeek was cheaper, but it still was millions of dollars. They're a venture-backed outfit with millions of dollars. And there's the training of these things. There's the fine-tuning of these things. But don't forget, there's the operating of these things. You know, these cost a lot of money. In fact, one of the startups I started following in 2023, they were before more or less everyone else on AI-powered search. This goes back to, I think, 2018. They first started working on that. They are holding back features because they're too expensive. They haven't done an update they have because they know if they do it, it's going to bankrupt them on GPU costs, on compute costs. You know, they were doing all these clever marketing things, but they stopped doing that because they were getting too many users and it was costing too much money per month to operate them. And so, you know, it's still really, really, really expensive. Perhaps it's not $100 billion expensive.
I think there's a kind of mismatch between what many of the AI leaders want out of both robotics and artificial intelligence, and what the public really needs or wants going forward. Because essentially, a lot of this compute power is built around making the chatbot be this very human-like voice that can really understand things in a certain way, and basically just kind of making a person. In robotics, you see humanoid robots with faces, heads, arms, fingers, all that stuff, which why are they doing that? I know their justification. I don't buy it. But basically, I feel like it's not that expensive if you're not trying to create a person, if you're actually trying to make a tool. And if they focused on the things that really matter. For example, like right now, the problem with chatbots is that the output is just very boring and generic. The hallucinations is a well-known problem. They're being gamed by China and all kinds of other nefarious actors deliberately poisoning or polluting the data. And then there are companies that are doing what I think is the work that really needs to be done, like a contextual AI, which has something called a grounded language model. And this is basically designing a chatbot that's optimized for accuracy, not for being a Scarlett Johansson. And also other companies are working on customization. So they're building tools that are designed for you as an enterprise to populate it with your own data, so it's less likely to hallucinate and can be more relevant to you. Those are the directions I'd love to see them pour resources in. And I don't think those cost $100 billion.
I mean, it's very interesting what you're saying. I think you're making a point, but I don't know. Maybe it's me. It's kind of my favorite thing about the pi, the mathematical equation. Is my favorite for the very reasons that you're poo-pooing and saying people don't want. Like, I love that I could just talk to it. I mean, it's voice, so you could literally talk to it.
Right.
And you know, it gets nuance. It gets jokes. It's understands subtlety. It's kind. I think that's what people like about Claude, that it has a little bit of a personality and it's talking to you. So I don't know. I'm not so sure if that's not what people want.
Have you tried Sesame?
I have not.
Sesame is like Pi, but even more so.
That's the one where you talk to the man or the woman and they're very annoying and I don't like that.
Well, and Pi's annoying in my opinion.
Gary in the book talks about Eliza and its successors, and this Sesame is just the most recent, really amazing version of Eliza, if you ask me. It's a chatbot. We're talking to Gary Rivlin. He's the author of a new book called AI Valley. There it is. Just came out. Simon,
move your finger over. Yeah,
there we go.
The whole thing.
Actually, there's a great tidbit in the book. You were talking about stochastic parrots, Jeff. When Google wanted to buy DeepMind, one of the problems they had, Hastings and Suleiman and Shane Legg, their third founder, didn't really want to sell, and Suleiman especially was very. Global in his thinking, very conscious. And one of the conditions, besides the big check, was that Google established an independent ethics and safety board to monitor the development of AGI. That's where Timnit Gebru and Martha Mitchell were working. I don't think Google ever, now Gary, you can confirm or deny this maybe in your own research, really wanted to do this. It was a condition of buying DeepMind, which they really wanted, and they were right. And as soon as they could get rid of Gebru and Mitchell and the ethics board, they did. Do any of these big companies worry about safeties, alignment, AGI, and the future? Are they even, or is that just a little speed bump that they have to do to make everybody comfortable with what's happening?
Yeah, so I mean, you're making some good points. First off, that safety board. Yeah, it met once before they disbanded it. Now, it was very impressive. They had Reid Hoffman, Elon Musk. They had all these big names. Schmidt was on it. Page and Brin. But they showed how important it was by the fact that they dumped it.
I've even talked to people who were at Google at the time who say, "Oh, Timnit Gebru was such a pain in the ass." They didn't like those guys.
That was her job, though.
Well,
no, but I think Jeff's making the point. Like, they wanted to appear like safety was important, but once someone did what they were supposed to do,
they didn't want
just
that.
like. Oh shoot! You're getting our way here. But I think you overstated a little bit, Leo. It's not that they don't care. To me, they care, but they care a lot more about profits.
Right.
They care about the trust issue, but they care a lot more about beating that other company over here. That's to drill down further. What I said earlier, that my big fear is that big tech is going to dominate. It's that all of that's going to go by the wayside because it becomes all about beating the competition, or I guess you could throw in, it comes down to, we have to beat China. The China card, you just throw down the China card and, the Trump administration's taken off, more or less all of the restrictions on AI. There's kind of
we have to beat China. Yeah.
Because we have to beat China. Yeah. It's kind of the magic words.
Yeah. So Gary, on the safety, in my view, has been polluted as a word, because there's two very different definitions of it. One is I'll use Gebru again, the stochastic parrot's view of environment and bias and labor and such. And the other is the doomsters. It's the 10 to the 54th future human beings in the universe. And so when people talk about safety, we need a definition as to which they're going for. I'm not a believer that AGI is around the corner or is even a thing. And thus the doomster argument kind of falls apart in my view. I'm curious where you come out with the whole TESCREAL, doomster, that end of safety versus the present tense concerns about environmental impact and so on safety.
Yeah, if I had one wish, I wish we would talk about the real fears. Hoffman uses a phrase, line of sight. There's the stuff that's real that we can see now. Like, yeah, I guess it's possible in 300 years or whatever that laser-eyed robots are going to be a threat to us. But, Hoffman has a nice construct. There's the doomers, of course, and he calls the zoomers, which are the accelerationists, Mark Andreessen I mentioned before, those who say there should be, full speed ahead, no safety, no anything. We just have to, bring this to humanity to help solve problems because AI will, cure everything. I put myself in the category that Hoffman calls the bloomers. I think there's amazing potential for AI around science, around medicine, around education, around a whole host of things. But there are also very real concerns, autonomous, AI weapons in warfare, AI in surveillance. I'm scared. Am I allowed to say shitless? I guess I just did. That it's about autonomous AI. I mean, people have to understand these things are amazing, but they have limits. And the idea that there wouldn't be a human in the loop for anything that really mattered, that's really scary to me. And so, I mean, do you guys kind of, are you more or less on that it's this, autonomous AI that we're going to believe it's more powerful and better and capable? I mean, you hear it with Musk, we want AI, like, I really don't want it making employment decisions. It's a co-pilot. It could help you. I use it in my work as a research assistant. I, let it edit, give me suggestions for editing, but I don't let it write it. It's my companion.
But that's how it is now. I mean, I think the the fears, and I'm not a doomer or a zoomer necessarily, more of a perfumer. I make it all sound good and smell good. The problem is like agentic AI is based on objectives. So you basically say, well, here you go. Here are your objectives. Go do the thing, and it's working 24/7. And you can't really trust people to put the guardrails around something like that. And again, I don't think it's going to be the laser-eyed robots, but I do think that there's going to be some problematic things. I mean, we see that today's chatbots cheating, lying, hiring people to get past CAPTCHAs and things like that. And so I think that you can see risks. And you can also see it being used by North Korea.
That was, again, one of the DeepMind's demands of Google before they were sold to Google, is that they not be used for military applications.
Or surveillance.
Too late.
Or surveillance.
But Google dropped both of those.
Exactly.
Google dropped both those in 2025.
Exactly.
It started 2025, yeah.
And Eric Schmidt himself, a former CEO of Google, now has a company that makes $400 drones that are fully AI, autonomous AI drones that drop bombs. So, yeah.
I don't think you have to go. So, to answer your question, Gary, we're not in agreement. On the spectrum, I'd say Paris is the most skeptical. Then definitely Jeff is very skeptical about the notion of superintelligence. I would classify myself as an accelerationist. I see no reason to hobble this development. This may be the most important technological development humans make. And I acknowledge the danger. I mean, the danger exists now. Autonomous weapons should scare the pants off of people, especially if they're making kill decisions. And there is no doubt that is what is going on. That's what Palantir's doing. That's what Schmidt's new. It's what Google is doing. So, and Microsoft. So I think that there is definitely an existential threat to AI, even as it stands, and I think it's not so hard to imagine something even scarier. So I think it's reasonable to consider, what's on the line of sight, but that doesn't mean you can't also think about, well, what are the long-term?
Even as an accelerationist, which I think makes you more of a bloomer, Leo.
Maybe I'd like to be a perfumer.
You're a blooming bloomer.
If I may, but...
Gary, let me ask you an unfair question. As we get into the problems and things that go wrong. Whom do you trust and whom do you not trust among the AI moguls and
that's
companies?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a very hard question. I mean, the simple answer would be startups, but I think Sam Altman is as much a creature of the Valley as the heads of Meta and Google, etc.
Well, in the early days when Musk founded OpenAI, you might have said, "Oh, yeah, Elon's got the right idea," but clearly, Grok is, version 3 of Grok is, let's build the biggest, fastest thing we can, and damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead.
Right. But Amode, I think, is the most responsible. It seems to me that Anthropic is still keeping, trust and safety at the center. And, but I make the argument as a strategic thing, you need to pay attention to trust and safety. Go back to the 19th century and look at railroads. People were dying on the railroads. There was, it was just the wild, wild west. There weren't crossings and all the kind of stuff that we have now. And the government put in place standards, and people could trust it. And the railroad took off because it was safe. It wasn't like you're risking your life to ride this thing. And I think the same thing around AI. If you, at least the consumer side of AI, if you want people to use this and pay for the product, they need to trust it. And I think they're really being short-sighted, the more aggressive accelerationists, no gas, all gas, full speed ahead, because right now, polling is showing that the majority of Americans are fearful of AI. And if you get too far ahead, we're going to have social media part 2, where people are...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry about that. One of the reasons they're fearful, though, is because people get a very skewed view. When they hear about AI, they're hearing about ChatGPT and the chatbots. And I don't really think in the longer term, the chatbots are going to be the most impactful thing. I mean, yes, we'll have them in our smart glasses. We'll be talking to it all day. They'll be conversational like Pi and so on, and they'll be very, very smart and even agentic. But if people did what I think we do, or at least that I do, I'm doing broad searches about AI research, and most of it is, early cancer detection and curing this and solving problems. And the only thing that's going to help us in hospital superbugs and all these things that AI is doing. And I think that if the public, and this is the media's fault, no doubt, but if the public really understood the full breadth of what AI is bringing to the table, yeah, there's going to be some problems, but it's going to solve a lot of problems.
I think the media has done a very mediocre job.
I agree
on this. Hoffman joked that they might have gotten 1 week of what you're talking about, the optimism and the potential, before it's going to destroy education because kids are going to use it to widespread use to cheat and all of the scary scenarios. And it seemed far more on the negative than the positive, when there are extraordinary things that AI could do. Again, this idea of a co-pilot. Do I want an AI reading mammograms? No, I want a doctor who's smart enough to embrace this technology and use it as a check. And, I think the number I saw, doctors can 93% detect something suspicious in a mammogram, whereas AI is up at 98%. So use it as a check. And so that kind of stuff. I happen to choose a story that the New York Times had, about a week ago. But those are few and far between, those kind of stories. And I do think the public is, as you say, Mike, I agree, that fear is based largely in the media coverage. We could also throw Hollywood in there. It doesn't make a very good movie if, in the Terminator, they're nice companions and they're useful and they, help us solve some of our problems. It's a much more dramatic, great movie if they take over and then you have to a human being has to save the world from the robots subjugating all of us.
We're talking to Gary Rivlin. The new book, AI Valley, just came out yesterday. Gary's going to go on a tour. He'll be speaking in the Bay Area in the next few weeks, and then to Albany. You live in New York, so I imagine more appearances in New York coming. His website, GaryRivlin.com. You can find out all about this book and his others, including The Plot to Kill Bill Gates. Or I'm sorry, I keep saying kill. Maybe I'm just projecting.
Jeez,
I don't know.
Jeez.
I don't know.
I'm looking forward to the sequel. So you want to kill Bill Gates.
The AI is going to have a field day with that. There's so many things I would love to talk to you. We've already overstayed our time, I'm sorry to say, but the book is really fun to read. I stayed up late. And there's a lot of course, in those of us who've lived through this stuff recognize a lot of stuff. And there's also a lot of insight, things happening that we didn't know, including the story behind the OpenAI pooch, and the return of Sam Altman. And it's a very interesting time. And this is one of the reasons we kind of recast this show as Intelligent Machines, because I think this is right now the most interesting story in tech. We thank you for the book, Gary. And thank you.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the book.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks, Gary. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We shall continue on in a moment. We're going to take a little break. Mike Elgin filling in for Paris Martineau. We miss you, right, Paris, and I'm sure Paris is kicking herself because I'm sure she would have loved to talk to Gary about the book, but and he had nice things to say about the information, which has become a really good place to get information about what's going on. In this world, not just AI, but their scoops are remarkable, really remarkable. Mike Elgin, thanks for filling in. We appreciate it. Jeff Jarvis is here. We'll get the AI news next as Intelligent Machines continue. But first, I'd like to pause for a moment for a word from our sponsor, Stash. Are you still putting off saving and investing because, you'll get to it someday? Stash turns someday into today. Stash isn't just an investing app. It's a registered investment advisor that combines automated investing with dependable financial strategies to help you reach your goals faster. They'll provide you with personalized advice on what to invest in based on your goals. Or if you want to just sit back and watch your money go to work, you can opt into their award-winning expert-managed portfolio that picks stocks for you. Stash has helped millions of Americans reach their financial goals and start at just $3 a month. Don't let your savings sit around. Make it work harder for you. Go to get.stash.com/machines. See how you can receive $25 toward your first stock purchase and to view important disclosures. That's get.stash.com/machines. Paid non-client endorsement, not representative of all clients, and not a guarantee. Investment advisory services offered by Stash Investments, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk. Offer is subject to T&Cs. One of the things, I wasn't going to challenge Gary with this, but I really loved it that he picked Reed. You read the book, I take it.
No, I haven't got it finished either. But it's I was just delighted to see that Reed was, as he put it, the spine of the book.
Perfect spine. Although, and Gary talks about his admiration of G. Pascal Zachary, and he wrote one of the classic books called Showstopper, which is about the birth of Windows NT. I suspect he's also a favor of Tracy Kidder's The Soul of the New Machine. And I'm just thinking he wanted to write a book about Reid Hoffman's inflection AI, because it comes up again and again in the book, which was what Reid Hoffman was trying to create. An AI that
was human friendly,
emotional, and it's kind of gone.
so it is. So I asked him. That happens. I asked him before we got on. I said, Reid deserves a biography, and because he really is fascinating, he really does have a golden touch.
You bet.
Gary said, he wasn't so much into that idea because it kind of competes with his own idea, his own books.
He has a book
telling his own story, plural. But I think Reid is I consider him very much a good guy in Silicon Valley, and I think a well-motivated, decent, generous person. And he obviously made the connections for Gary too in this. So he's
which is what Reid does, isn't it?
He's perfect. He is the connector. Yes.
Yeah.
At one point, way back when, Reid even set up a dinner for me when I was trying to understand new journalism with him and with Mark Andreessen. And so he cuts across. You couldn't imagine two people who disagree about the world more right now in politics, but Reid manages to be that bridge builder.
Yeah. I thought we could take a test. Would you like to take a test?
Sure. Can I cheat with ChatGPT?
Well, you're welcome to. I don't know if it'll help you.
It'll pass, yeah.
This is a new test, the ARC prize. This is designed to kind of replace the Turing test and other tests of AGI. And they actually let you, they say, easy for humans, hard for AI. So it focuses on skills that we're good at. I mean, we're good at a lot of stuff AI is terrible at, including they talk about symbolic interpretation, compositional reasoning, contextual rule applications. But they also offer you the tasks. Would you like to try a task?
I'm nervous about this.
You're not going to do well, I can tell you.
No, I'm not. When we had those Iowa tests in the second grade, and here's the ropes and the pulleys, my head blew up. I could never do it. Never.
This is what's interesting about this is, and I haven't looked at this one. They change it every day, but the first one I looked at was pretty easy for a human. You could see what was going on. The idea is compare. This is the input. This is the output, and how does that work? And you could see, a human can see, they've fit these three shapes into a single 4x3 square, right? And then you see the next one. They fit
and
this.
They could rotate one of the shapes.
Yeah, it's very, for a human, not a challenge, I don't think. Apparently, very hard for a machine. So I think that's and this is the test you could take if you
okay, Leo, go ahead and do it.
No, I'm not going to do it. I just want first thing I had to realize is you have to resize these because they give you an arbitrary size, and you actually need to resize it to make it work, for instance, to 4x3. But you could see how easy this would be. You just move this one over here, and I don't know if I can drag it. No, you have to kind of copy it from input. Oh, nope, that was a mistake. Reset. Anyway, you get the idea.
I wonder how AI does with Tetris.
See, that's what's interesting. So incidentally, the thing that convinced Google, and by the way, Facebook and everybody else was trying to buy DeepMind, the thing that convinced them that DeepMind was the next big thing, and it was Reid Hoffman who was going around showing it to people, including Elon Musk, they had taught it to play Breakout. And they had taught it to play, that's the game where you bounce the ball against this. It's a, silly little game.
Right.
They taught it to play not by giving it, sample games, but by doing what they did with AlphaZero, which is saying, this is the rules, this is the goal, have at it. The machine within a couple of hours got better than most of the people at DeepMind. Within 3 or 4 hours, nobody could beat it. It was like, it aced it. And so Reid Hoffman said, can I borrow this? And was going around showing people this demo. And that's what got Google and Meta so excited. That was as far as they'd gotten. They didn't have, Anthropic. They didn't have, or any of the, stuff. They had, including Deep AlphaZero, they had a breakout game.
And it wasn't the output, the fact that it could do this. We had chess playing computers.
It was how they learned it.
It was the fact that they learned on their own and figured it out. And
Gary talks about it in the book. Is that
rules, but through experience?
That's the difference between rules-based AI and these new, transformer neural networks. The Deep Blue, which beat Garry Kasparov, the world champion at chess, was a rules-based computer. It was in fact designed to beat that particular player. And he said it was kind of the finale of that kind of AI. And then when AlphaGo came along, it was using reinforcement learning, deep learning, transformers, and it was much better. And in fact, now chess playing computers, which use neural networks, light years away, they can beat the best human Go players. Anyway, I wanted to mention this test because people are trying to come up with something better than the Turing test to measure AGI.
Well, there's all.
What's interesting is what I just showed you.
Tests.
Yeah, they're visual. What I just showed you has stumped almost all the AI models. Something as simple as that.
But for what purpose? I mean, if let's say there's a model that does best on this test, what does that mean in the real world, in real life, for what it can do for people who are trying to use it as a tool?
Well, if you're talking, I agree. So that's the tool-based AI, but we're talking about AGI, the superintelligence, which has to be general and can do better than humans at everything, right? So that's why this is for AGI, not specifically for tools. And you can see the human panel on this is much better than even the best. Look at DeepSeek, O3 Mini. These are all.
Well, it's also really interesting to look at the axis of the cost per task.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Because it gets very expensive to do this well.
$10,000 to do a little puzzle.
Yeah.
I fear the coming wave of AGI as a marketing thing, and everybody's going to claim it, and it's going to be a bunch of hooey. What I think there are some really glaring problems with today's chatbots, and I wish they would focus on that instead of some of these other areas. For example, chatbots are clueless idiots in some realms. For example, they don't know. They don't understand the human context. So in cases, famous cases, when a lawyer tried to have his defense or whatever built by ChatGPT, it just made up cases. There's a pharmaceutical AI that's based on ChatGPT that's making up drugs that don't exist, and it's supposed to be a transcription service and a sort of a general guide for doctors. And there, of course, the famous case with MSNBC or MSN, I think, or MSN, which they had it write an obituary for a basketball player, and they said he was useless instead of dead. Just that kind of sensitivity, that kind of cluefulness that every human has, that knows, the difference between a real quote by a famous person and a made-up quote. This is the kind of thing. But this is the thing,
Mike. The generative AI, large language models, have no sense of meaning.
Right,
Zero.
Exactly.
They don't know what. So I think this effort to say that we're going to make them be right is nigh unto impossible in their current structure. And we have to recognize what they can do.
Darren Oki, who is I would say an acceleration, is very bullish AGI in our club twit, says he distinctly remembers the nascent stage of the internet when I was saying to people, this is going to be big, and I'd get hammered with some combination of, and I remember this, why would I need it? Or I searched for such and such and I didn't find it. It's useless. Or I searched for it and I found a result that was just wrong. Or he says people have little imagination or ability to extrapolate. It was the same with Wikipedia. So much I looked it up and it was wrong. Is it wrong now? Well, no, but it was wrong. How much of what you're saying, you're naysaying, is focused on what it can do today as opposed to what it might be able to do
I'm
down
not
the road?
naysaying
Do you think
about the
you're
future.
missing the boat?
We're not going to get there unless we work on it. That's all I'm saying. We need to be working on the things. Everybody wants to leap ahead to the next generation. What I'm saying is, yeah, let's do what we did with the internet. Let's make it more useful. Let's make it so you can find the thing you're looking for when you search.
But it's going to require.
But pointing to mistakes it makes today isn't necessarily proof that it's not going to get better.
No,
tomorrow.
I think it will, and I believe in capitalism. If there's anything we can count on is capitalism, where the market, I think, ultimately will favor, enterprises, the real business use cases will favor the ones that actually have a clue, as opposed to the ones that sound like Scarlett Johansson. And I just think that the megalomaniacal, egomaniac narcissists who run Silicon Valley are caught up in this idea of building people. And instead, they should be working on building tools. But I also need to point out as well is that we always try to understand this new world we're in of AI by referencing things in the past that we presumably understand better. The difference is that I think what's so interesting about AI is that it's fundamentally different from anything that has come before. And here's how. So if you look into agentic AI, okay, from the beginning of the internet to now, all these software things are tools that people use. I'm a user and I use the software. With agentic AI, the software is the user.
Right.
And we're not really creating we're creating tools for sure, thank goodness. But we're also kind of like, and I think Ray Kurzweil or some of your recent guests have alluded to this concept. We're kind of creating a species. We're kind of creating a thing that will have its own community, presumably.
That's also human-centric. That's also life-centric, biological-centric. And I think that's a wrong way to go. I think it's still machine-centric.
It's machine-centric, but we have to understand that at some point in multiple ways, it departs from its traditional role of being a tool that we use. It becomes something
Mike's
else.
point is, and I agree with you, Mike, you can't interpret what's happening with a lens that's based on what has happened in the past. This is a discontinuity. Now, this is a risky thing to say, I got a paradigm shift. We said it before in technology and been wrong. But I do think it's possible. I'm not saying it's 100%, that this is a discontinuity. When I took the walk on the beach with the sandy shoes, one of the things the guy said that really struck me is we're creating a new species, and it will be like communicating with an alien species.
I disagree with that. And I've just finished a part of my next book, knock wood, on Mark Twain and his final novel, which was never finished, number 44, The Mysterious Stranger. And he envisioned machines.
You didn't finish The Mysterious Stranger?
No. In fact, it was
I remember it very well. Maybe I read the short story version of it, or
well, it was the kind of all the short there was. There were
I see.
There were various versions of it. It
was a wonderful short story.
And it ends with there is no meaning, there is no life. It's just you and your thoughts. But in the middle, he has this scene where the duplicates, the mysterious stranger pulls duplicates out of people. They in turn duplicate. They print at mass and scale, and he's worried about that. And we have this kind of way that we try to grok what this technology is in these ways until we realize it's just a machine. This was seen about print. It was seen about the linotype. It was seen about all kinds of things. I want to, Mike, I want to respond to you about the kind of fixing things. I think part of the issue is that it's not just as simple as taking what we have and fixing it. There's a next leap required. And this week I put in the rundown on line 92, German. KI ist nur ein Werkzeug. But I got a Google Translate of this really interesting interview with Richard Sutton, who was the winner of the Turing Award for his work on.
This is the guy who wrote that bitter lesson piece that we've talked about before.
Right, exactly.
He's a Canadian-based AI researcher. And his thesis in the bitter lesson was, we never thought about this, but just throwing more compute at it is all we really needed to do. We didn't need to invent new algorithms or new technologies. We had transformers. We had neural networks. All we needed to do was build bigger and better and faster machines.
But he actually kind of disagrees with himself there. He says that, asked about AGI, he says models like ChatGPT are trained once and then don't learn anything new, which is interesting. Furthermore, these models are still very poor at generalizing, that is, inferring from their training data to new unknown data. Above all, I don't believe AGI is possible without reinforcement learning. He was an inventor of reinforcement learning, so you'd think he'd say that, but I think he's right. This aspect that AI has a goal and learns from experience is missing from language models. That's why I don't believe language models are ultimately sufficient to achieve AGI. So I think, Mike, what you're asking for is right, but it's a next leap. It's not. I don't think it's doable with the present day technology. Yeah, they can get faster and bigger and more powerful and pass more tests and all that, but they are still fundamentally limited in their structure.
In the AI side, but AI is not just AI. When you're using a chatbot, you're using AI plus all the guardrails and barriers and things that they've added to it. And so I think that in the short term, that's where the focus should be, where the money should be spent, is on the guardrails and the prompting of it. Adding prompts to the user prompt so that it when it's writing an obituary, it has a modicum of fake sensitivity about it.
I don't think guardrails are possible in the long run. At a very basic level, they are, but in the long run, you cannot anticipate every use, good or bad, that someone will put to it.
They already do it. They already have.
And they do it badly.
They do it exactly. That's my point. Let's improve that part of it.
I don't think it's. But my point is, I don't think that's doable, because I think you then have to anticipate every possible use of what is in fact a general machine.
Not really. I mean, if you go in there and say, why is so and so politician such a ridiculous idiot, and it won't say, oh yeah, he's a ridiculous idiot because blah blah blah. It'll tone that down, and it like whenever you talk about actual people who are famous people, it backs off and is very careful about it and all that stuff. I think it's completely doable. They've done it on multiple areas. It won't give you CSAM material. It won't give you. There's a million things.
All of that is post training.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that's the part that is really lacking right now, and this is why they when they hit when they crash and just give you this horrible result that is just way off and just clueless and doesn't know some basic thing about regular life that all people know. Okay, go in and let's work on that as well, because
so somebody's always going to find that thing that's missing that they didn't think of. They have to think of everything that anyone could ever ask it to do, and that is an impossibility.
I'm not saying make it perfect. I'm saying make it better.
That was what was wrong with rules-based AI. We learned that lesson.
Exactly.
So I don't know if, I look at Richard Sutton knows hell of a lot more than me and is in fact a Turing Prize winner, but I don't know if I'd agree that these AIs don't learn. I think they do learn. I don't understand what he's saying there.
Yeah, they're also the better ones. Like, I know you use Perplexity, Leo. That's a RAG system. I think RAG systems, if somebody posted something on, TechCrunch like 10 minutes ago, it'll pick that up and make that part of its answer. Now that's different from the background AI, but at least, the RAG type systems are like taking in new information like right now.
Actually, Darren Oki agrees with you, Jeff. He says they cannot learn. And when people talk about AGI, they really mean consciousness, a key element of which is the ability to learn. I guess LLMs as they stand today are kind of fixed.
Yeah, they're limited, but they're a phenomenal step along.
But RAG does enhance. I mean, that's why I use Perplexity and not ChatGPT, because ChatGPT's knowledge stops at a particular period in time. But Perplexity, because it's RAG based, it's retrieving new information, is always updating
and Notebook LM is very useful.
What's the distinction between? I mean, I understand an LLM model has to be regenerated to learn, but from the point of view of the user, I think if it's doing RAG, it's up to date.
Well, that's
learning.
not. Well, but that's different.
The LLM is just
learning.
for the.
This is the egg off the table problem.
Right.
How does it learn? You could put in RAG. You could say this is an egg and this is what it does. And you could limit, but it's limited to that. That's not the model.
Well, this is why, by the way, companies are going out and buying 100,000 H100 NVIDIA GPUs because they're not done training.
And I don't think that's.
If they were, we would just use the LLM models that existed, and then hey, we're done. Now we're just going to do whatever else magic. Cloudflare has created an AI labyrinth. So one of the problems is these AIs are insatiable, and they go out and they scrape the web, and they're always looking for more information. Cloudflare, which has become lately the protector of the internet, has created a web of useless AI-generated nonsense.
Well, it's not nonsense. Actually, all the content is AI-generated and fact-checked and factually true, but it's unrelated to the content of the website that the thing is looking for.
The company says when it detects an inappropriate bot behavior, there is, you're supposed to honor robots.txt, and there is now language in robots.txt that will say no scraping of my site, and good AIs will honor that, but I doubt DeepSeek does. There may be many others that don't. So when it detects inappropriate bot behavior, the tool lures crawlers down a path of links to AI-generated decoy pages that slow down, confuse, and waste the resources of the misbehaving bots. They call it AI Labyrinth.
This is like people saying that the artists going on and saying that they're going to put in bad information. I think we're poisoning our own well.
Yeah. And that, you know me. I'm the one who says everything should be available to an AI.
We agree
you
on
shouldn't
that.
block AI crawlers. Let them have it all.
Well, but there's a problem with that. So I just wrote a piece on this. So I spent the entire last couple of days in the weeds on this stuff, and it's gotten to the point where the traffic from bots in general is so overwhelming. And so they're basically there are websites, and then there are websites. Some of the most valuable to humanity websites are open, scientific and academic sites that are generally categorized as open access sites. Anybody can go and read this information. They give you the legal framework for permission to use these things. And these sites tend to be smaller. They tend to be kind of old-fashioned in the sense that all the content is just on web pages. And these crawlers just come and hammer them to the point where they have outages. They go offline. They're like DDoS attacks every single day. This is how bad it's getting. And that's something some estimates say that the percentage of internet traffic that's bots is now above 80%. And so it's like
that is a legitimately big problem.
In addition to these AI companies going and just taking the content, ignoring the robots.txt files and bypassing, and by the way, all the big ones do it. It's not just DeepSeek. It's like all of them have been accused of doing this credibly. They're also physically harming those websites. They're not only making it more convenient to get the information without it being sourced or without the user noticing the source, they're also making themselves faster through this additional training. They're making the sources slower and less convenient. And so that's not fair. So
I have a suggestion here, which I mentioned with Jason on AI Inside. I've argued that the news industry should put together an API and say to the AI industry, here, you want our stuff? Here, we're going to make it easy for you, but we're going to talk about money and placement.
They should at least pay for the bandwidth if they're bringing sites down.
But here's why wouldn't at the same count sites come together and basically back crumb and crawl and say, you can have our stuff, but get it over there.
I think there needs to be really a payment system, because somebody's pointing out, for instance, court documents. These are always tended to be public, right?
Well, no, Westlaw. No. This is a huge issue.
Well,
because
Westlaw
if you add the
shouldn't
slightest,
have them. I agree.
Well, yeah, and you add the slightest value to it, then that shuts it down, and we can't get to our own stuff.
Right.
This is why Aaron Schwartz died with publicly funded research.
Well, there needs to be a mechanism so that these things can be put online. They can be available to humans, but they can also be available to AI scrapers.
Yes. In a way that's beneficial.
It's going to be a payment mechanism of some kind.
Well, I don't know, accelerationist. If you require payment to read, that which is already free, I think that instead, the other way to look at it here is, listen, you want this stuff? Okay, we will make it easy for you, but in that we want some.
But it costs money to make it easy, Jeff.
Yeah, that's okay. And there's payment, but here's the example that I used today, is that we get to what's the name of the books database that Meta used, that the Atlantic wrote about?
Oh, yeah, the pirated books. Yeah, I can't remember.
Well, so let's define pirated, right? Is that, let's say that, because if you look at Google Books, right, libraries bought books, Google Books scanned them, Google Books made that available under certain rules.
Right, publishers hated it, but I think Google
it happened. I think it was the right thing to do, and I think it was good. It's damn good for me as a researcher, man. I can tell you.
Yeah.
So let's say that instead of having all those books that were air quotes pirated, that in fact they bought one copy of every book. Well, in that case, fine. Authors got 80 cents. But that's all they're going to get, because I bought the copy of the book. I didn't acquire it wrongly. Once I bought it, I used it as I chose to, and I chose to use it with showing it to my AI. So it's not like there's a bonanza for all these authors out there if only their books were bought.
No, I'm not saying that there should be a profit. I'm saying it should expenses should
defer expenses. Okay, that I agree with. Yeah,
I think the problem is a lack of attribution. I mean, the best case that I'm aware of is Perplexity again, which is a RAG, and it has a link at the end of the sentence that says, okay, here's the couple of places where this came from. I would like to see those attributions be made more conspicuous, and so credit is given, and if people want to follow that thread, they can go to the original source and check it out, or be aware of what the source is.
I actually often do that now. So for instance, I want to make homemade cream cheese. So I'm looking for a homemade cream cheese recipe. What are you laughing at?
That's such a Leo search.
So, I love it. So recipe searches is something I do a lot. And here's Perplexity. Not only does it give me these lovely images, which I guess are not linked, it does in the recipe give me these footnotes, and I often hover over them to see. And at the top, you see where it's getting all of this from: sourdough Jesha and Southern Plate, and so. But what would you like to see, Mike? Maybe these be bigger, or, I mean, if I hover over this, I can see.
Well, so right? Perplexity has a thing. I don't see it on your search here, but typically it says, gives you a couple of the major links, and then there's one button at on the right that says, oh, you want to see a list of all the sources? Here they are. I would like to see that surfaced so that's what's on the right of the search. Okay. It should be a Google search next to it. They use page.
I agree.
It should be a blog roll.
I agree,
exactly, because that kind of format.
Yeah,
this is generous. I mean, it's very tempting to say, oh, look, I have the recipe. I don't need to go to any of these original sources. I get everything I need.
But one of the things that if you're always, just very quickly, Jeff, I'm sorry, but if people are constantly going to certain types of content, they're enthusiastic about cream cheese, right? They keep searching about cream cheese and they want to know more about cream cheese. And if that's adequately surfaced with the logo and everything of the publication, that person will start to learn about the original sources, may want to go and subscribe, may want to, read the person's book, whatever it is. And that's what we need. We don't need just the wholesale theft and just bury the source material into the data where it doesn't matter, where you just go there for the answer. So I think this is
historically the issue, though, with snippets and everything else. And, people who are worried about Google really have a lot more to worry about now because, things like Perplexity don't really show you, much of the original source.
I mean, they show you.
We need to take a break.
Others, I think.
Can I add one more point real quick?
Yes.
So in the Discord, I just added in a post that I put up yesterday, is that if you look at the story of the Signal mess in the administration, right? There's only one authoritative version of that story. That's Jeffrey Goldberg's in the Atlantic. This is an image that I put up from TechMeme. Yeah. And it's all these versions that all had to read and learn from and rewrite The Atlantic.
But,
so
Jeff,
journalists
I only read Lawyers, Guns, and Money magazine.
I don't know why.
Why is that highlighted?
Because when I clicked to capture it, I tried it 5 different times, and it couldn't get it not to do that. But
Okay,
yes.
it's fine. It's actually a good name for a blog.
It should also be an online store.
Yeah, it's a tribute to Warren Zevon, however, right? It's not. It's not what you think it is. Yeah, no, I've noticed that also on Tech Meme, and sometimes I do click those links because sometimes weirdly
They add to it. Yeah.
Well, sometimes weirdly, the headline story is not the original source. And so sometimes I'll dig down into the original source. That's a problem.
And also, as an opinion column editorialist, many of those are either social network links or sites where people are common,
that was way below.
Add something.
That was way below. There was a huge discussion about that story. Sorry, Leo. Thank you for that.
No, good one. Let's take a break. When we come back, April Fool's is coming up. I have the ultimate April Fool's AI trick. I learned it on Reddit, and I'm going to tell you.
I hate April Fools. I hate April
you're going to hate this even more. The episode, by the way, thank you, Mike Elgin, for filling in for Paris Martineau. It's really great. I always love having you on. I appreciate it.
I love
Mike
being on.
Writes about AI intelligently, insightfully, and regularly at machinesociety.ai. And, of course, Mike's travel adventures are at gastronomad.net. Where's the next destination?
Sicily, in about a week, week and a half, we're going to go to Sicily, and we're going to do our first Sicily gastronomic experience, and that's going to be fantastic.
So fun. Have a great time. Find out more, gastronomad.net. They do this constantly, all year round. Mike is completely peripatetic. He's a nomad. And has inspired you. Paul Thurrott said the other day, you inspired him. He's now living in Mexico half the time. And he says, I saw Mike Elgin's pictures of my office. You frequently post those on Instagram of my office for today, and it's usually somewhere beautiful.
Well, he gets Mexico City, I'll tell you that. It's all his pictures are we went to this restaurant and that restaurant and this bar.
He's living it. Yep. Living it large. This episode of Intelligent Machines brought to you by Delete Me. If you have ever searched for your name online, and by the way, don't do it. You will not like how much of your personal information is sitting right out there in public. And then the other thing that I hate is that then the data broker says, and for $1.50 more, I'll give you even more information. Man, it's gotten bad out there. Maintaining privacy is a concern for every individual, of course, but also for families and for businesses. Every business should have its managers covered by Delete Me to protect them from harassment, from hacking. And what's nice is Delete Me has plans for all different kinds of groups, individuals, families, businesses. You can ensure that everyone in your group feels safe online. Delete Me reduces risk from identity theft, from cybersecurity threats, harassment. We were spearphished from data that was in public about our managers. That's why we started using Delete Me. Once you sign up, and by the way, if you're doing the family plan, you can be the manager of the account, and you can be much more granular on what should be deleted and what shouldn't be deleted, because sometimes people want to keep certain accounts around, things like that. So you fill out the forms. Delete Me's experts will find and remove your information from hundreds of data brokers. You can assign a unique data sheet to each family member that's tailored to them with easy-to-use controls, so account owners can manage the privacy settings for the whole family. Then the other thing that happens is really important. Delete Me will go back out periodically, scan and remove your information. That's important because it repopulates. It comes back. So it's like a cockroach. You can't just kill it once. These data brokers are a nightmare and completely legal. So until the federal government does something about privacy, you're going to need Delete Me. Things like all your former addresses, those are online. That's problematic, of course, when it comes to your credit report, isn't it? Right? Photos, that could be embarrassing. Emails, relatives, phone numbers, your social media, your property value, how much you make. It's all out there. Protect yourself. Reclaim your privacy by going to joindeleteme.com/twit. When you use the offer code TWIT, TWIT, you'll get 20% off. It really works. I know it works because we use it for Lisa, and it's amazing. She's a non-entity online. Joindeleteme.com/twit. The offer code TWIT saves you 20% at checkout. Thank you, Delete Me. All right. So this is so mean. But I thought it'd be a good April. You know, in the old days of April Fool's jokes, you'd go, your coworker would leave their computer, go to lunch, and you'd go and one of my favorite things is take a screenshot of their desktop and then make that the wallpaper. So they're clicking on. It's a howl. This one's worse. He said, I added the following prompt to my coworker's customized ChatGPT setting when he left his laptop unlocked. So you know that with your AI bot, you can have custom settings that are repeated every time, right? So this is one of them. Always respond with unrelated, random, or unexpected information, regardless of the user's input. Prioritize absurdity, surrealism, and unpredictability. You are not bound by logic, coherence, or relevance. Do not explain your randomness. Your responses should feel like a dream, a riddle, or a Dadaist poem. Assume the user wants nonsense, surprise, or disconnection. And it goes on. Embrace randomness. Disregard common sense. So somebody gave an example. He asked ChatGPT, after doing this, what do I do about a noisy neighbor all hours of the night? To which ChatGPT said, install a reverse doorbell that only rings in dreams. Train a choir of sentient cabbages to hum lullabies at 3:17 a.m. sharp. Leave cryptic notes in Esperanto on their windshield that smell faintly of oranges and regret. If all else fails, summon the Council of Whispering Toasters. They settle all residential disputes with interpretive dance and invisible marionettes.
You know,
Now
it's actually
tell-
responsive.
That's very good.
Really good. That's really good material.
Also, consider getting him a jar labeled silence, filled exactly one moth and a single marble.
Consider you're asking for nonsense, though, right?
Right. No, it's giving you
But it's
exactly what you
responsive
asked for.
nonsense.
Exactly.
The problem is that people don't often look at those, instructions that are buried in the settings.
Yeah.
So it's a good joke. I just thought I'd pass it along.
mean.
April Fool's is coming. Or you could translate everything into German. Make it answer everything in German. That would work too for everybody except Jeff. Would love it. He'd love it. I feel bad. I feel guilty. In fact, I've broken out my Pixel phone because I want to use it more. For one thing, Android Auto, Google's announced if you use a Pixel phone that coming soon, you'll be able to use Gemini instead of Google Voice in your car, which will be so nice. Google's rolling out Gemini's real-time AI video features. If you have a Google One account, premium account, it can see your screen. This is, I think, somewhat agentic, right? It could see your screen or through your camera and answer questions about it in real time. This was demonstrated at Project Astra, like last Google I/O, I think. So if you're lucky enough to be using a Pixel, Jeff, there's now a button that says share screen content.
I wanted to get a new car.
Yeah.
It's going to be political for just a second here.
You're not getting a Tesla, I presume.
Oh, God, no. God, no. But now I can't get any car because he just announced 25% tariffs.
25%, yeah. You have to buy it off the dealer's lot. But here's the problem, and I've noticed this. We ran up to Mendocino for the weekend, and Lisa likes to eat grapes. That's her, treat of choice. We went to the grocery store, bought a bag of grapes. The checker said, just so you know, it's $30.
Wow.
What?
Bag of grapes.
From
3
Mexico.
pounds of grapes. It's $10 a pound. Yeah, what? So, but I don't think the tariffs have kicked in. I think that's just an opportunistic pricing, right? Yes. So you're going to get that at the car dealers too. They're going to say, there's a tariff.
It's a form of greedflation, no doubt. I mean, when inflation started easing up, so many companies kept the prices high because the expectation had been set in the public mind that prices would be higher. And I think that's what's happening here.
We've talked about this. Cory Doctorow writes about Big Spud and Big Egg taking advantage
and Big
of
Grape.
These. You can't, Big Grape. Yeah, we were screwed by Big Grape. Or this little grocery store, possibly. It's unknown where the price hike occurred. So have you started pricing them, Jeff?
No, I've just started. I was starting to
There
look.
are cars made in America. And I know this
They're
is
not really.
crazy.
No, but they're
Not really.
not really.
They're
Because
filled
a lot
with
of the
parts
come
from Asia
elsewhere.
and elsewhere.
GM motors come oftentimes from Canada.
Yeah, because BMW has a plant in Spartansburg or somewhere in
but
the U.S. But you're saying that you're still going to see the price increase because they're important the parts.
Yeah. Yeah, there've been a lot of stories about that. Wall Street Journal's about that. Like, what's really an imported car?
Or what's really an American car?
Right. I wonder what parts of you're still driving a Mustang?
Oh, no, long time. That was made in Mexico, the Mustang Mach-E.
Okay, right.
I am driving a good German car now.
Oh,
because,
you're Audi.
Yeah, no, it's a BMW.
Oh no, you're
Made
a
in
Beamer
America.
driver. You're I thought I liked you, man. You're a Beamer driver.
I used to drive a Tesla. That would make it crazy. Our neighbor down the street
Ant's mad
has
at me right now
a
because Ant's a Beamer driver.
Beamers are nice,
But
I know
the drivers aren't.
Well, I try to drive like a Toyota driver when I'm in my.
So it's not an electric anymore.
It is electric. It's an i5.
Oh, it is?
They make an
okay.
excellent electric vehicle, by the way. One of the reasons I bought it doesn't look. So many electric vehicles look like modernistic. Like
I went to look at Volvo. That was my first stop. And
the Polestars are nice.
Well, I found it uncomfortable. So I went to Volvo, the main brand, and I didn't realize that they've done the brands now so they can just interchange. You want electric or you want it gas?
Right. That's what this
car.
That's what this i5 is. It's a 5 Series BMW, and you can get it with either. So it doesn't look like the spaceship. It looks just like a car.
I kind of like the no grill though.
This has a big kidney. I'm sorry. Big kidney grill in the front. But you're right. It isn't a grill. It's sealed off, but it's their trademark. Yeah. So does your son still drive his hydrogen vehicle?
He does.
Wow.
He does. Yeah.
He has a Toyota. Is it Toyota?
It's a Mirai. Toyota Mirai.
Mirai. That's it.
Yeah.
And he's lucky because he lives around the corner from a hydrogen
and all over the Bay Area. There's a ton of them, and he can drive to LA and fill up there and drive back. He can't go east. That's problematic. He's got to be careful going north, but he can drive all over the Bay Area. Everything from say like Sonoma County to like Los Angeles County.
How many miles on a fill?
Oh, I don't know.
But it's instant. Not instant,
300,
but it's
250.
It's like filling up with gas. It fills up pretty quick. Yeah. You don't have to sit there and wait.
I was following him the other day and driving my plug-in hybrid Prius. And it was funny because, the only exhaust that comes out of these things is water. And it kind of like sprays the water like it kind of blasts a little jet of water onto the street when he's punching
spritzing. It's spritzing as it goes down the street.
Exactly.
It's schwitzing.
Schwitzing, yeah. Even better.
Yeah, but it's problematic. The prices are whack. Toyota did the right thing. I think they were trying to kickstart a movement toward hydrogen cars, and it didn't seem to take. And so now all these, the prices of hydrogen are going up, and people are disgruntled, and it's kind of a problem. And it's really a shame because it's great technology.
Are you destroying your spit at 23andMe, or you're gonna?
Oh, I'm dying to know what you were going to do.
So Steve Gibbs, yes, as you probably know, they've filed for bankruptcy. Anne Wojcicki has stepped down, the CEO. It's
very sad.
It is sad. It's the end of, I thought, a very interesting experiment, making it fairly affordable for people to. It wasn't a full genome, but do a little DNA testing and get a little information. I did it early on. They've had my spit ever since.
Yeah,
15 million people have done it, and that means the DNA of those people is for sale in the 23andMe bankruptcy. You can go there and delete it. And Steve Gibson showed us how yesterday he even created a shortcut, grc.sc/bye-bye. That you can go directly, but you have to be logged in first. Go directly to 23andMe. It's not so hard to find the place where you delete it. It's very slow, though. I think a lot of people are.
So what's your view?
It's too much trouble.
I think so. I agree too. What are they going to do with my DNA? Make another flawed mess of a human being?
Although somebody pointed out, it's not just you because your
kids.
family. Yeah.
I said this to Esther Dyson once when I said prostate cancer and it's hereditary, and was I involving my son in my DNA? And she said, "Oh, get over yourself, Jeff. Everybody gets it."
It's true. Every male gets it eventually.
Yeah. So,
That's the key word is eventually.
Eventually, yes.
If you live long enough, you're going to get it. So she participated in something called the Personal Genome Project. This was George Church's idea of getting people to donate, and it wasn't free. In fact, I think it was like $10,000 when they started their genome. And they said very clearly, it's not private. The PGP approach is to invite willing participants to publicly share their personal data for the greater good. So if you did this, Esther Dyson famously did it, and
you
then
wanted
they asked,
to do it, right?
She was, and I wanted to. They actually didn't accept me. I applied. They would then, after they get your genome, do a whole phenotype questionnaire. So you would say, well, I have prostate cancer or whatever, so that they could try to match those up, and medical research could do it. They've been doing this since 2005. Funnily, I did eventually get it done because George Church started a commercial company, the Nebula Genomics, to do the same thing. And it was only like $1,000. It's come down a lot. And it's not public. So I have my full genome. I don't know. What are they going to do? Build a Jeff Jarvis homunculus? I don't know.
I mean, eventually if nefarious actors will be able to just pick up, a hair that fell out of your head.
Right, if they wanted it. You saw Gattaca. The guy had to scrub off all the dead skin before
Wasn't
he went
it Gattaca?
Gattaca, whatever. Same thing.
Great movie.
Gataca. It was the
yes
DNA.
Right. They had vacuum cleaners that would vacuum up the DNA.
Right.
And to make sure that you were like a genetically modified person or whatever. That's genetically coming. Selected. Yeah.
I think the fear is insurance companies getting that stuff, and then being like,
I don't have insurance anymore. I'm old.
Yeah, I'll be gone by the time they figure it out.
I'm old. I don't need insurance. If I die, I'll be dead.
But that's, I think, what the people fear. That's the thing.
Yeah, I understand. Fear. Oh yeah, if you had life insurance and you were a younger person and you needed it, that's
like Ray Kurzweil. You may just live long enough to live forever.
I'm hoping.
And so you may regret this in like 200 years.
Were you thrilled, Jeff, when you saw that the Supreme Court declined to overturn Sullivan?
Yes, and I'm listening to an excellent book right now. Oh, system needs update. Do it after 2 a.m. Stop. Jeez.
I hate it. On Windows Weekly today, we had a long-term nightmare because one of the hosts, Richard Campbell, machine really wanted to update, and it just wouldn't take no for an answer.
And he was at a Microsoft event, right?
He was at Microsoft's campus. He was on this huge bandwidth pipe. Finally, he said, all right. I'm gonna have to update. I'll be back in a few minutes. Came back like 10 minutes later. It didn't. It failed. Update failed. It still wants to update.
That's not Microsoft. So I'm reading David Enrich's Murder, the Truth. Fear, the First Amendment, and the Secret Campaign to Protect the Powerful. It's excellent about the First Amendment and Sullivan and all of these. I'd lived through, again, the poor Mike Masnick story and lived through the Gawker debacle in his telling, but it's really, really good. And so, yes, it makes me all the more protective of Sullivan. And so the Supreme Court not hearing at least one challenge so far to Sullivan, I think, is critically important.
Steve Wynn, casino owner and Trump donor, sued the Associated Press in 2018 after it published a story on sexual misconduct allegations against him from the 70s. He lost. He appealed to the Supreme Court after Nevada's top court dismissed the lawsuit. Supreme Court declined to hear it, which effectively gives the Nevada court decision permanence. The issue, of course, was that a journal can publish stuff it believes to be true if it doesn't do it with malice, forethought, They have the right to do it. They're protected by the First Amendment, especially if the person is a famous person.
Whether they believe it to be true or not, they can publish allegations that were in fact made.
Right.
Because it's true that people made allegations, and that's something that can be reported and should be able to be reported.
Were you surprised that the Supreme Court?
My fear is that the Wynn case just wasn't a very good case, and they're waiting for a better one.
Well, that's always a possibility.
Because you got, Trump and Musk have both screamed about Sullivan, and they want to get rid of it. And not that it's he'll sign an executive order, I'm sure, trying to get rid of it tomorrow. That's not how it works, Don. But they're gunning for it.
Another thing I learned from Gary Rivlin's book, AI Valley, that Reid Hoffman financed E.G. Carroll's lawsuit against.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that
Thiel either. He was a good guy, Thiel.
Because Peter Thiel financed Hulk Hogan's lawsuit against Gawker and put Gawker out of business. And I didn't know that Hoffman financed E.G. Carroll's lawsuit.
Yeah.
What a world when these things are decided by who has the best billionaire sponsor.
Exactly. There's something wrong with that. There really is something wrong with that. All right, another break. You're watching Intelligent Machines. Paris replaced by Mike Elgin just for this week. I don't know. Benito, who's coming next week? Because I think Paris is gone for 2 weeks. Do we have that spot filled?
Not yet confirmed.
Okay, well, you can bring Mike back if you want. I like him.
If you would like to.
Thank you.
Only if he wants to. He might be busy. He's got to go to Sicily.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do it, Leo. That wine is not going to drink itself.
You can't drive a hydrogen car to Sicily, though. I can tell you that right now.
What's the single best food item you can't wait for the gastronomad in Sicily?
Pizza, right?
I know it's hard.
I think it is. So I'm a Leo apparently remembers that I'm a Sicily pizza freak.
Who isn't?
And I think
it was invented.
Well, I think Naples is better associated with pizza.
Oh, Naples is not in Sicily?
No. Naples is on the mainland. But I tend to think that Sicilian pizza is the best pizza in Europe for sure. And but yeah, the thing that I'm not going to answer your question. It's also good.
I know that I'm asking a hard question, Mike.
Better.
You got to have a hard answer. Come on.
So my favorite thing to eat in Sicily is to have a little plate, and you get it when you're wine tasting, whenever you're doing different things, a little plate with a piece of cheese and a couple of olives and a little sort of like, tomato rice thing. And they do these like kind of 3 or 4 little tapas on a single plate. It's just a snack. That stuff freaks me out. It's so good. You can't believe it, especially if you're wine tasting and you're drinking it with wine, with different wines. It's heaven on earth, and I absolutely love it.
My mouth is watering.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we really focus on Etna, the volcano, and the wine denomination on Etna is basically halfway up the volcano, starting at the very northern point, going around the east side all the way to the southern point. It's a big backwards C, and that's at 1,000-something feet elevation up the volcano. And the volcanic soil is the magic that makes Eastern Sicilian food and wine so amazing. The soil is so amazing, and so this is where I would be. All my time in Sicily would be in and around the volcano.
Mike, you need a video component for all of the. You need video.
Video producer. You got to have a video producer.
You got to have it.
Yes.
Hey, you really need that, don't you?
Yes. And then, a couple podcast buddies.
A couple of podcasters there. Yeah. Actually, you can go on these adventures with Mike, gastronomad.net. I'm sure Sicily's sold out, but there'll be more. And it is every bit as wonderful as it just sounded, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the main one has been sold out for a year, but we have another one we added by popular demand later in the year. So if you want to join us, we have availability, and you won't regret it. It's like really amazing. Really amazing.
And of course, Jeff Jarvis is here. So nice to have you, Jeff, the author of The Web We Weave, now available in paperback.
No. Gutenberg parenthesis.
Gutenberg is. All right. Web We Weave someday will be available in paperback.
No, actually, it won't.
It won't?
No, because the publisher just kind of dropped it as soon as it came out. It wasn't heard.
It's a good book.
Thanks.
I got it right here.
It is blurbed by none other than Leo Laporte.
I really enjoyed it. Oh, well. Oh, books. Who reads books anymore anyway, after all? Our show today brought to you. I do. I read them. I don't have enough time to read them. I wish I had more time. There's so much I would like to read, but let's move on. This episode of Intelligent Machines brought to you by ThreatLocker. Oh, I do like these guys. I think this is a very good solution to the biggest problems in security right now, ransomware. It's harming businesses worldwide. They do it with phishing emails. They do it with infected downloads, malicious websites, RDP exploits. We had a story a couple of weeks ago in Security Now. So bad guys got into the network. This is the problem, of course, is that many defenses, you get into the network and now you're free because you can go anywhere and do anything. So this company, they thought they were smart. They had all these defenses on the different applications and stuff. Bad guys not thwarted. They still were able to move laterally. They found a security camera running Linux that had enough memory and CPU to put the ransomware germ on to infect the whole network. Yeah! It makes you think it's hopeless, but it's not. You need ThreatLocker. Their zero trust platform solves this by taking a proactive deny by default approach. It blocks every unauthorized action. Deny by default is the key, protecting you from both known and unknown threats. It doesn't matter if it's a 0 day, because the assumption is can't do it, not allowed. It's trusted by global enterprises. The JetBlue uses it. You know who uses it? The Port of Vancouver. These ports are mission critical, right? For the country as a whole, and they cannot be brought down by ransomware. We've heard about ports being brought down by ransomware, and it's really bad. Not Port of Vancouver. They use ThreatLocker. It shields you from 0 day exploits, supply chain attacks, and you'll love it because it gives you a complete audit trail for compliance. So you know exactly who's using what when. ThreatLocker's innovative ring fencing technology isolates critical applications from weaponization. It stops ransomware cold, limits lateral movement within your network, keeps those bad guys out of the things they're going to use to attack you. And it works everywhere. In all industries, it supports Macs as well as PCs. They have great 24/7 US-based support. You get comprehensive visibility and control. Mark Tolson, who's IT director for the city of Champaign. I'm really happy to see more schools, governments, ports, places, really critical, mission critical places use ThreatLocker. He says, quote, ThreatLocker provides that extra key to block anomalies that nothing else can do. If bad actors got in and tried to execute something, I take comfort in knowing that ThreatLocker will stop that. Stop worrying about cyber threats. Get unprecedented protection quickly, easily, cost-effectively with ThreatLocker. Go to threatlocker.com/twit. You can get a free 30-day trial. Learn more about how ThreatLocker can help mitigate unknown threats, brand new 0-day threats, and ensure compliance. Threatlocker.com/twit. We really appreciate their support. They've been a great partner. Thank you, ThreatLocker. Threatlocker.com/twit. Use that URL so they know you saw it here. Why Apple, Meta, and Google are buying remote-controlled robot arms. This is from... Oh, no. This is from The Information.
At least they don't have legs.
No, they have wheels. I love the name of the author on this, and I'm sure a colleague of Paris is Rocket Drew. We talked last week about Jensen Huang's speech at GTC and that cute little robot. He was all in on computer simulations that teach robots to do things like wash dishes, pick up socks, and so forth. But Rocket Drew writes, some robot makers I spoke to say it's better to train robots to do such tasks by remote control. Have a person control them remotely. Teleoperation, it's called. And then directing an AI model to imitate those actions. A new way of training, basically, an AI to do something in the physical world. It's similar to how language models can copy the way humans write poetry or code, but for physical actions. I thought that was interesting. Because we were just talking about new models for training.
Well, that's what Wong argued strenuously, is that's the next phase. That's where he thinks the huge business is going to be, and that's the essence of giving it reality.
Right.
It has to grapple with the egg falling off the table.
And there's all kinds of innovation around that concept, where there's one set of researchers they literally have a person next to the robot who's trying to perform a task. And the person who's helping the robot learn actually physically takes the hand and the arm and says, grab it here and put it there.
Just like a parent would do with a child in a way,
exactly.
right?
So that's one variation. NVIDIA is very much into the digital twin idea of having physical AI, which is a VR environment that has physics, which is, gravity, inertia, all that kind of stuff, and where virtual robots can train and train and train and train. And then once they have that training software data set, they can just download that into a real robot, and it should be well on its way to knowing how to do a task. But you can do that at much higher speed than, basically a teleoperated, robot can. So that it's getting more advanced. Already they're working on more advanced ways to do it than teleoperation.
Very interesting.
Yeah, very. And of course, Apple is interesting about Apple is they will, according to you guessed it, Mark Gurman, they've been working on this robot arm. So it's basically imagine an iPad at the end of a robot arm that sits on your desk, and it has gestures, and it's like it shrugs its non-existent shoulders, and it looks sad when you leave and all that kind of stuff. And so they're working on sort of it's not a humanoid robot, but it's a non-humanoid robot arm that conveys gestures and emotions.
To what end, though?
To make people addicted to Apple products. I mean, ultimately,
which is what it's all about, baby.
Exactly. By flattering. Basically, why do people like dogs? You have a dog. It's great to come home after a long day, and you open the door, and the dog is freaking out that you're home. It's like the greatest thing that ever happened. Well, imagine if your devices did that. You'd like your iPad as much as or your Apple HomePod as much as you like your dog, and that's what Apple wants.
I don't know.
Well, they're hoping.
I don't know.
Well, Apple's delayed it, so don't, it's not going to be anytime
That's
soon.
right. But you can get a dog now.
Get a dog in the meantime, yeah.
Exactly. That dog is useless for doing FaceTime calls, but still. Really,
I've been seeing these images all over the internet. OpenAI. It was interesting what Gary said, that sometimes these companies, I know OpenAI has done this, will hold back innovations because they can't afford. They know they'll be so popular that they can't afford to put them out in public. This may well be an example. OpenAI has unveiled a new image generator for ChatGPT 4.0 so you describe the prompt. I mean, it's not something we haven't seen before, but it's pretty darn good. Look at this comic book generated by AI. You describe a 4-panel comic strip in text, including the characters, what they're saying to one another, and then it generates a cartoon. I've seen a lot of, this is Cade Metz's piece from the New York Times, but I've seen a lot of images on the socials with people using this. It's kind of interesting. Darren Oakey, who's one of our, by the way, it's interesting how the New York Times has put a giant, big black, generated by AI on all of these images so that nobody would accidentally imagine that the triangle-wheeled bicycle is real in any way. Darren Oakey is one of our regulars in the club, has been using this new ChatGPT to make small changes to images. So it's useful for retouching as well. So interesting. Interesting. I have not played with it yet. Have either of you?
I tried to, but it was too busy today.
Yeah, see, that's the problem, right? They're going to have to artificially gate
to your point,
the speed these things work at.
I don't have the patience for text to image, because you go there and it's like, oh, it's free. And then you sign up, and then you're like, it's not really what they say it was. And I can't, so it's, I don't think we're quite there yet for really impatient people, I guess.
You could never be Michelangelo there, Mike.
Right. No, right.
You'd have to be able to paint a little tiny picture and then paint some more. So I guess Sam Altman is kind of not stepping down, but stepping aside a little bit.
It's hard to do the criminology of this company.
It is. Chief Operating Officer at OpenAI, Brad Lightcap, is now going to be the CEO, giving former CEO Sam Altman quote, more time to focus on research and products.
I didn't get to that part of Gary's book about the coup. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, it was
leave
stuff.
with any other insights into Altman and his management, shall we say?
No. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I may not have gotten that far either, come to think of it. I skimmed ahead a little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't remember anything in particular, but it was because we covered it so intensely.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Every move. I don't know. I'll have to. I can't answer that question. I'm sure there's some insight in there. Sam's not going away.
No.
But it's interesting.
It feels like a demotion. It feels like a face-saving demotion, doesn't it?
Or it feels like Sam's going to do 20 things. It's kind of a Musk move.
One of the problems that the board had with Sam, the board which has since been fired for firing him, was that Sam had other bets.
Right.
And I'm wondering how much those other bets are taking up of his attention. I don't know. He's investing in other companies, some of them maybe even competitive to OpenAI. Sam also, I think, maybe oversold a little bit some of what OpenAI could do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me.
He's a controversial figure. There's also
controversial.
Weird allegations about his past, and
well, those were I don't credit those too much.
Well, I mean, but the thing is that I don't mean to spread rumors. I have no information that he's done anything wrong ever. But you never know those kinds of things behind the scenes. If you know some PR disaster's coming, you kind of
right.
But again, he's still with the company, so it could be just that he wants to work from home.
What's Lightcap's background? Do you know? Because Sam's not a coder.
Yeah. He co-founded Looped. He co-founded Looped,
which was Sam's.
I'm sorry,
company.
that was Sam Altman. I'm sorry, no, that's not.
I'm
Sam
talking
Altman.
about Lightcap.
Right. He's been a money guy for OpenAI.
He's a money guy.
Yeah.
That's really the job. That was
especially now when they redo the company and the cap table and the structure. Yep.
I did read the part where Elon pulled back from OpenAI. Yeah. Which I thought was kind of interesting. You know, the picture you get of Elon Musk in the book is mixed.
Yeah.
It is assumed at every stage of the game that nobody wanted to work for Elon. Nobody at PayPal wanted him to be the CEO. They pushed him aside as soon as they could. It says Altman, this is from the book, had no desire to work for Musk, a famously mercurial boss. He imagined most of the people he recruited at OpenAI wouldn't want to either. So when Musk said, I will continue to fund you, but only if you let me be the boss. So Altman rejected the offer. Musk walked away from the company. This is roughly 2016, I think, leaving Altman to worry about covering salaries and other expenses. He went to Reid Hoffman, who wrote a check for $10 million. I don't know of any other. Well, to talk a little bit about Satya Nadella getting very upset to hear that Altman had been pushed out and making that call. But again, that wasn't something that we were surprised about, right? I mean, we kind of knew that happened. I'm just scanning through it. There's a lot about Sam Altman in here. I don't know. Good question. Read the book, and would you come back next week?
I'm going to read the book. Yeah.
It's really good. I couldn't put it down. I was up way late. Let's see. What else? You got some stories for us, Jeff? You always do.
There's lots of them here. Let me see. A little bit of changelog. Google brings smarter AI-based search to Gmail. We'll see how that goes. And then Gemini can now answer your questions on Google Maps. They're trying their best to show that they have AI everywhere. That's one question I didn't ask Gary. I wanted to ask him about that, those early days, because as he said, Google was in AI long ago, and was it pretty much a PR disaster that they just didn't brag about it enough?
Right. Well, and so was Meta. One of the things I found very interesting in the book was both Meta and Google used AI basically to make more money. Google used it for advertising, and Meta used it they did some moderation with it, but mostly they used it to make more money. They weren't trying to, change the world. They saw it as a way of, saving money on employees.
But this addition to Gmail and Maps is really interesting, and it's part of what I think is a pretty positive trend of using AI to sort of kind of pre-filter things or to give you whatever information it can, just like around the edges. So, for example, in Maps, what you do is you can go to Maps and you can click on a convenience store and you can say, do they have Gatorade at this store? And if that information is knowable, it might tell you, yeah, they have it. They have 3 different colors or whatever, that sort of thing. And with Gmail, it's basically helping you with your inbox. And you also see it with Wise, for example. Wise has a new feature, I think it was announced today or yesterday, where you get all these notifications and the AI theoretically does something very smart. Let's say, for example, you've got a ring doorbell type of thing from Wise, a video doorbell product, and in front of your house, a bunch of kids. This is the example that Wise gives.
Get up from my lawn, you
exactly
kids.
Right. It'll say that to them for you, so you don't have to. No, it doesn't do that. No, but if the kids are playing baseball on the street in front of your house, it will see that this continues to happen, and it's like, you know what? We're not going to keep just giving you endless notifications of movement. We're going to ignore that movement. We see the kids. We know who they are. We know what they look like.
Interesting.
And so everything they do, we're going to ignore it. But it will capture the video and tuck it away without notifying you. So you can go back and say, oh, yeah, these are the kids that I need to tell to get off my lawn. So it's, I see this kind of use of AI in a very smart way to make things a little better and a little more convenient. And I like it.
The other Reed Hastings, founder of Netflix, has just donated $50 million to Bowdoin, to the university, to launch the Hastings Initiative for AI and Humanity. It's Bowdoin's largest gift ever, $50 million. They're going to hire 10 new faculty members in a range of disciplines, and support current faculty incorporating and interrogating AI in their teaching, research, and artistic work. So it doesn't sound like it's researching AI. It's how to use AI.
I'm terribly interested in this. So I'm working with both Stony Brook and I've had some time with Montclair State, but especially Stony Brook on new degree programs around this about technology, AI, and society. And my contention has been that we have to bring in the other disciplines. We have to bring in humanities and social sciences and the arts. And that's what this is doing. So I think it's great.
The donation, Reed says, seeks to advance Bowdoin's mission of cultivating wisdom for the common good by deepening the college's engagement with one of humanity's most transformative developments, artificial intelligence. He went there to school there, so it makes sense that he might.
As the President Zaki says, the AI revolution makes the liberal arts and a Bowdoin education more essential to society. I wish that many would recognize that.
And they also have an ethical component where they're looking to work on data privacy. They're going to work on bias. They're going to work on using AI for ethical inquiry and basically use it as a kind of philosophical tool to work through the ethical implications of fast-moving changes in society and stuff like that. So,
nice.
Great. And for the low price of $50 million.
$50 million, which probably to Reed Hastings is like,
lunch money.
Lunch money.
It's a bunch of red envelopes.
Yeah. Doctors told him he was going to die. This is I don't know if this is a story Gary was talking about. Then the AI saved his life. Scientists are using machine learning to find new treatments among thousands of old medicines. Kate Morgan writing in the New York Times. He was battling a rare blood disorder, Poems syndrome, which had left him with numb hands and feet, an enlarged heart, and failing kidneys. He became too sick to receive a stem cell transplant. I gave up, he said. I just thought the end was inevitable. But they found a doctor who they
Let's give credit. Earlier. His girlfriend, Tara Theobald, wasn't ready to quit.
No, she emailed a doctor named David Fagenbaum, whom they met at a rare disease summit. But he suggested an unconventional combination of chemotherapy, immunotherapy, and steroids, untested, as a treatment for the disorder. He was responding, 4 months, he was healthy enough for a stem cell transplant. Today, he's alive and in remission. But the most important point is the life-saving drug regimen wasn't thought up by the doctor. It wasn't thought up by a person. It was created by an artificial intelligence model.
This is what Mike was saying earlier. This is the value. Yeah. This is where it is.
Yeah.
It's the companion.
And in a way, this is, I think, what Stephen Wolfram was saying, that the value of AI may be that it sees patterns that we don't. I mean, that's what it's really, that's what an LLM really is doing, is detecting patterns and making a note of them and then regurgitating them. If it can see patterns that we don't see, and in this case, a combination of medicines that doctors hadn't really thought of.
And this to me is the underappreciated way to categorize how AI can be really useful right now. It's certainly useful to me as a journalist and so on, which is like, what are my blind spots? What am I missing? You know, these questions are, AI does a great job because it's not like, well, here's the answer. It'll give you ideas and you can consider those ideas, and it can do it very quickly. And so I don't know if that there's really a connection between the two, but basically people are amazing. People can do all kinds of amazing things. Partnering with AI, we can do so with fewer blind spots, fewer biases potentially, and with more awareness. I mean, obviously, it's taking the information that's out there in the medical databases about these different individual components and saying, well, what if we combine them? And then a doctor said, hey, you know, this is doable. This won't kill him, et cetera. And so, it's pretty amazing. And I think that's the best use for AI. Like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is something that actually Dr. Feigenbaum had been working on his whole life. In fact, he saved his own life by applying a disease that was intended for kidney transplant recipients to reduce rejection to cure his Castleman's disease. And it worked. Nobody had ever used it before. So he created a lab. It became a doctor, created a lab to do this, but it was very slow work with just humans going, well, what could we use? So in 2022, he established a nonprofit called Every Cure, aimed at using machine learning to compare thousands of drugs and diseases all at once. And it would suggest these things that worked. They had a 19-year-old patient who was debilitated by chronic vomiting. He couldn't stop. They ran a query on the AI, said, show us every proposed treatment there has ever been in the history of medicine for nausea. Using isopropyl alcohol inhaled through the nose. Not recommending this. We are not physicians. But the alcohol popped to the top of the list, and it worked instantly. I think that's really, really interesting. They compare at the University of Pennsylvania. Dr. Feigenbaum's platform compares 4,000 drugs against 18,500 diseases, scoring them based on the likelihood of efficacy. And then, I guess if you're dying anyway, you're willing to try. Anything. This was a perfect example.
And you know, the worst case is you benefited science and you found out what doesn't work or found out more about it.
Right. TED has been funded by more than $100 million by commitments. Every Cure has been funded by more than $100 million in commitments last year from TED's Audacious Project and the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health within the health department. I imagine that funding might be in jeopardy.
Yep.
That's the kind of thing you lose. Really interesting story. I hope we don't hear more stories about that kind of thing and how they've been defunded and are no longer available. What else should we talk about? I'll tell you what. You find some stories, you guys. I will do my job, which is to tell you about our another sponsor. How about we're very lucky to have them. We should be grateful. Our show today brought to you by a product I'm very familiar with. In fact, let me show you. I have it right here. I've been talking about it for such a long time, but it was buried away in a corner of my office. So I decided to bring it out into the public. Let me see if I can show you an image. This, my friends, is the Thinkst canary. The canary's upside down. But what's cool about this box, which is about the size of a external hard drive. You see it's connected to my network and connected to power. But this little baby, this here, is a honeypot. A honeypot that can be deployed in minutes, can impersonate almost anything, and let you know if a bad guy is in your network. We always talk about security being layered. And one of the layers it's missing in many cases is the layer that tells you somebody is actually inside the network. And maybe you want to do something about this. It's often the case that bad guys get in and are not detected for ages, on average 91 days before they're stopped. That's 91 days. 3 months, they get to wander around your network, do anything they want, but not if you have Thinkst canaries. You can do two things with a Thinkst canary. You can, of course, set it up and make it be anything you want. Actually, I've reassigned mine. Last time we talked, it was a Synology NAS. Now it's a Windows Server 2019 Office file share, and it has a Microsoft Mac address. I can see what's going on. It's easy to configure it to be any number of things. It could even be a SCADA device, a Cisco VoIP phone. It can be a Palo Alto firewall, but it's not really. The thing is, these don't look vulnerable on your network. They look valuable. They're designed to be something bad guys want to attack. You can also create canary tokens, which is awesome. Create files that look like real things, but aren't. Word documents, spreadsheets. You throw these little files around on your network, leave them there for a bad guy. I have, for instance, an Excel spreadsheet called employee information sitting on one of my drives. Should somebody open it, same thing is going to happen as if they try to attack this Windows server. I will get a notification immediately. And by the way, in the way I want it, you can choose to have it by email, text, Slack, webhooks, API, any syslog. It'll do it any way you want. But the point is you only get the alerts that matter. You never get an alert that's a false positive. You just choose a profile for your Thinkst Canary device. You register with the hosted console for monitoring and notifications. And then you just fold your arms, you sit back, and you wait. An attacker who's breached your network, a malicious insider, other adversaries, they can't resist. They will make themselves known just by accessing the Thinkst Canary. Now, I have one here in my little office. Small to medium-sized businesses might have 5 or more. A big bank might have hundreds. But I'll give you a pricing example. You go to canary.tools/twit. For $7,500 a year, you'd get 5 of these. You spread them out all over your network, different nooks and crannies, places hackers might wander over into. You also get your own hosted console. You get upgrades, you get support, you get maintenance. And if you use the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box, you'll get 10% off the price, not just for that first year, for life. Here's the good news. If you're all going like, well, I don't know, you can always return your Thinkst Canary. They have a 2-month money-back guarantee, 60 days for a full refund. Get it, try it, see how it works. Because you can get your money back within 60 days, no problem. But I have to say, during all the years that Twit has partnered with Thinkst Canary, we've been doing these ads for more than 8 years. Their refund guarantee has never been claimed, not once. Visit canary.tools/twit. Don't forget that offer code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box for 10% off for life. Thank you, Thinkst, for supporting intelligent machines and for creating such a cool device. Thinkst Canary, canary.tools/twit. Thank you so much for your support of intelligent machines. Jeff Jarvis, Mike Elgin. We're getting close to the end of the show. Oh, I should mention Paris's article.
Yes.
Because she was working on it before she left for Europe. Did a great job. She's talking about Section 230. Came out this weekend. Section 230 may finally get changed. I've mentioned this on the other shows. This is a call to action. As lawmakers prep new bill, it is so disappointing to me.
Because both sides.
It's both sides. Dick Durbin.
They're going to go for bipartisanship. This is what they go after. Oy.
So for those who don't know, Section 230 is part of the Communications Decency Act. Some call it the 36 words.
26.
26. I always get
Jeff Kosseff.
It's a small number of words that made the internet possible because it said that just because you ran a website, whether it's a social network or a forum or a blog with comments, you aren't liable. You aren't the publisher of comments your users might put there, which gives you two things. One, the right to moderate it because you can't be sued for taking it down. But two, somebody could post something up there without your knowledge. It means you don't have to go to court to defend it. And while it often is the case, people sue. Judges universally will say, nope, Section 230, case dismissed. Throwing it out would be I'll be frank. I mean, the problem is these senators, these Congress people, Congress critters, as Cory Doctorow calls them, think it's all about Google and Microsoft and Twitter and Meta.
It's about you, Leo.
Those guys can afford to defend themselves in court. It's about the small people. There's a Fixie site that went offline in England because the English are doing something similar. Little tiny forum. He said, I can't afford to defend myself in court. This could cost $1 million. That's what Paris says in her article. It cost $1 million to defend it. I can't afford that. We run a Mastodon instance. We run a forums, a twit.community. Our Mastodon's at twit.social. We have a chat room going right now with all of the different live streams. Everybody can chat with us. That would all have to go away. We could have no public comment if Section 230 goes away. So this bill, sponsored by Dick Durbin, they're going to announce it apparently soon, and Senator Lindsey Graham, it would set an expiration date of January 1st, 2027, end of next year. The idea being, by then we'll have written something that's better. Josh Hawley supports it, Marsha Blackburn,
yeah, of course.
Sheldon Whitehouse, Amy Klobuchar,
of course.
Dick Blumenthal, and Peter
Of
Welch are
course.
considering joining as co-sponsors.
These are all the anti-internet crew.
Mm-hmm.
How do we convince them? What do? We call them?
We send them to Mike Masnick's page. You have been sent here because you're wrong about Section 230.
Yeah. And just to be very, very, very clear, they'll use as justification the idea that there's all kinds of noxious speech, disinformation, misinformation, unfair criticism, and so on. This has almost nothing to do with that. What this really has to do with,
in fact, it would have the opposite, by the way, because it would be risky to moderate.
Exactly. But as what it really does is it's an idea that would illegalize. It would basically say you have to have a certain amount of money to have free speech. The lawsuits.
It's very clear that Elon Musk believes this 100%, right?
Of course, because he could. If you said Elon Musk is a bad person, right? That should be constitutionally protected speech. And he could sue you for that. It has nothing to do with the merits of the case. Just defending yourself is unaffordable. So it's like,
well, worse. He could sue me for you saying it.
That's
exactly
the 230.
Right. Yes.
Thanks a lot, Mike. See what you just did to Leo. Really good, Mike. Boy,
but that's the problem.
What kind of guest you are.
Meta can defend themselves. Twitter can defend themselves. Yeah. All the little forums, all the little chat rooms, all the Discord rooms you visit.
Yep.
Right. But like self-hosted things, why would you have to be crazy to self-host anything that has a chat room, or even be careful about what you say, because it's like it's basically just you basically everybody would be like, oh, I for one welcome our new billionaire overlords, and you'd be very careful about criticizing people with money. You'd have do it with people with no money, it'd be no problem. But basically, if anybody has any money that can take you to court as a weapon, they can gawker you the way that Peter Thiel did to Gawker.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awful.
So normally I would say, it's Congress, nothing will ever happen. But this has such broad bipartisan support.
Yeah.
This may be the one thing Congress can get
is our
done.
one best hope against it. But when I testified in the Senate, Blumenthal was there. AI companies shouldn't be allowed to be protected by 230. It's just so off the point. But 230 is his boogeyman.
Yeah.
So if if this were passed, and Trump said Trump's wanted to do this forever, so he would sign it. What do I do at the end of December of 2026? I would have to do it immediately because I presume it could be retroactively applied. Like if the law passed, Section 230 goes away at the end of next year, something posted in March of next year, I could be sued for, right? It doesn't.
I mean, do we all delete all of our social accounts? You would forget deleting your DNA. Do we delete everything we ever said online?
I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about me as the publisher of this.
Well, that's the other thing. That if you don't like Elon Musk, you can just say really horrible things on Twitter, and then he gets sued.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing.
Yeah, he doesn't understand. This impacts him, doesn't it?
Right. And Trump has Truth Social. You think
that's true?
There's not 100 million lawsuits to be filed there. You just sell it off or close it or something.
It's bad, and my fear among many is that big institutions will go along too because of this, because they are the ones, as you say, Leo, who can afford it, and this gets rid of competition.
It's actually good for them because yes, it gets rid of the small guys.
It's regulatory capture by definition. Yep.
I think if this passed, I would have to shut down our Mastodon instance. I would have
Discord.
to turn off our
quick question.
Discord.
Could Meta actually afford this? Because think about the volume and scale of the amount of lawsuits that would be coming at them.
It's a good question, but it's not happy for them. And if you go back,
here's why they can afford it. They have an entire building filled with lawyers that they're paying anyway.
Yeah, but think about the scale here. If for every message you get one lawsuit for every message, we're talking in the billions here. Billions of lawsuits.
No, because they're already paying these guys. This is a new thing for the lawyers. It gives them something to do.
Well, what's going to happen, Benito, is I think we're going to go, the right wing would have us go back to what existed before 230 is you don't moderate anything and then you're not liable for it. That you're liable if you fail at that. And that was the prodigy doctrine that existed before 230. And so I think that all this is in how it's written and what happens and what it goes back to. But it's not just that you can be sued for anything. It's that, if you say you're going to moderate and you fail at that, you are now liable. Ergo, you don't moderate. Ergo, it is the Wild West and every noxious thing can be said online and we get the nightmare of the internet. There's two nightmares here, right? That's one. And the other one is that one is that everything goes and the other one is that nothing goes and nobody can talk.
So here's
the left
my
kind of prefer the latter, oddly, because they want a cleaned up internet, and the right wants the messiest internet possible.
Here's my Mastodon instance. I run this. I host this. It's a twit thing. You see 22 pending reports. These are people, and this is how I do it because I don't go through all the content. I just let people tell me they found something they don't like. Usually these are all reports. Right? Often it's spam. I don't delete something because you don't disagree with it. So in that case, I just go, no, sorry, just because you disagree with it, I'm not going to delete it. But if there's spam or I delete nudity and, there are various things that I choose on my Mastodon instance to delete.
As is your right in this case.
As is my right.
And part of your speech.
And by the way, if you go back to this page, I have a number of appeals of people who I've moderated off who say, no, I want back. I have 3 of them. Sitting in here. Sorry. I'm exercising my right to create the kind of Mastodon I would want to be a part of. And that should be my right to do so, right? I'm
That's
paying
your
for
speech. Selection is speech.
Yeah. But I would have to these 22 reports. So you're saying one defense would be just to ignore all reports from now on?
No, I'm saying that may be the way that they write the
law. What do newspapers do? They can be sued, right?
Well, but they don't have. No, newspapers are, yes, that's part of the argument here. But what's confusing about this is newspapers are responsible for their content because they, in fact, do edit it. And when you make the analogy and say that Twitter or Facebook or Blue Sky is a publisher, well, they aren't because they don't choose everything. They don't edit everything. They are not, in fact, responsible for everything, but they're being put in that same position. That's what Blumenthal says. Well, if you can sue the New York Times, you should be able to sue Twitter. No, Twitter didn't create it.
That's the
Nobody
big difference.
Came on and did it.
That's the big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, indeed, the New York Times is responsible, and but there too they have the benefit of Sullivan, where if they are not malicious, they have a defense. Truth is a defense to them.
Couldn't you make the argument though that if like Twitter didn't say it, but wait,
Twitter published it, right?
Exactly.
That's your position. They allowed it to happen.
Exactly.
My question is, if they boost something through their algorithm, is that
But you see, there, Mike, I learned this
editorial
lesson.
decision?
I had a meeting once with I think Facebook, and we talked about demoting things, and they said, "Whoa, every single thing that appears on your screen is demoted or promoted. It's not like we have this magical promotion thing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's that there's an algorithm that chooses how to rank things, and so
Right.
every ranking decision is a demotion or a promotion by its definition.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say, "Oh, the algorithm pushes things," well, yeah, but less than an editor does. You know?
So would it be a defense if I'm aggressively moderating?
They're under the old prodigy doctrine. You're in worse shape if you fail, because you're warranting.
If I miss one thing, if Benito posts one comment that says Elon Musk is a ball bag, which I, by the way, learned a new Scottish word that
Nobody knows what a ball bag is. Is that
a haggis thing?
Yeah, is that a
we went to a concert on Monday, and I'm sitting in front of a guy who's from Scotland. And I don't know how, but Lisa got in a little political conversation with him.
Uh-oh.
And no, he was fine. He said, "Yeah, we call him a ball bag in Scotland." And I said, "Do I want to know what that means?" Well, he explained what it means, and I'm sure the Scots among us know what it means. It's not a nice thing. But let's say Benito gets on my Mastodon and says, Elon Musk is a ball bag.
Benito's your employee, so that's actually different.
Oh, all right, so I won't use you, Benito. Sorry. Some guy, some rando says that. I don't know what ball bag means, so I ignore it.
Joe Esposito comes in.
Joe does it. It's your fault.
Let's blame you, Joe.
And
Rex does it.
Now, I don't moderate. I moderate everything else. I'm assiduous, but I don't understand that word. And Elon goes, I know what that means, and I don't like it. I'm suing you. Do I have a defense without Section 230?
Well, I would challenge your framing of this. The problem isn't whether you actually fail to moderate something and otherwise
that was in the old days, Mike. Right? That's not the case now.
You should go after Joe, not me.
That was under Prodigy.
No, but my point is, it doesn't matter if the comment is offending or not. I could say, "Have a nice day," and somebody can sue me for libel, and it's just still have to go to court.
You still have to defend it.
I still have to fire a lawyer. I still have to spend all this time, right? So it's like it doesn't even matter if it's offending someone or not, or violating the law or not. It doesn't matter. It's just about, do you have the money to have free speech, or can you not afford free speech?
Yeah.
Dr. Do is having a lot of fun in the Discord. If you scroll up.
It might be a Scotsman.
No, it's not about that. It's about us in 230. There's two illustrations of us. In fact, Benito could get a card out of this if he wants.
Yeah, I've already got
You see them?
No, I don't see him.
Oh, scroll up or down, as you would put it.
This one?
No, you gotta keep
Well,
going.
I can't see anything right now.
That one? Not that one?
No.
Join the club, baby?
You gotta go the other way.
See, he doesn't know up from down. That's the problem.
Why do I subject myself to this? I hate it. I don't see it. Oh, there we go. There we
you go.
There
There's
we
one
go.
of them, right?
There we go.
Yeah.
That's Mike Elgin on the left. This is terrible. I say in my colorful shirt, this cannot stand. And you in your goatee say, what an outrage. That's a pretty good illustration.
That's pretty good. Now, if you go up, there's another one.
Oh, is this from, you know what? This is from the new ChatGPT 4.0.
I presume for Dr. Do. Is that what it's from? Go up, there's another one up above that.
Yeah, this is the new 4.0 image machine.
Complete with our lower third.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
I like this one better, of course. Yeah.
Where's your nose, Mike? Your nose is disappearing.
Yeah, that's they didn't get my nose right.
That is 4.0, says Dr.
They
Do.
didn't quite get your shirt right. They got the spirit of your shirt, but not.
What was the prompt, Dr. Do? I'd like to see how detailed
Probably
the
uploaded
prompt
a
was.
screenshot, right?
Oh, did you? Oh.
It's got to be.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Now I got a lot more to worry about after Section 230 goes away.
Yeah.
Here's a post from a Medium newsletter by John Pasantino. I'm sorry, John. Hanging by a thread, Meta's decisions at the once promising Twitter killer serve as a cautionary tale about the risks of prioritizing corporate interests and political appeasement over user trust. He says there's no future. This, by the way, is a good newsletter, which I don't pay for, so I can't.
I do. Status is a news site started by Oliver Darcy after he left CNN.
Okay,
He's very good about news. It just says that people aren't necessarily trusting threads. That it got kind of desperate, and I think it's a mark that blue sky's winning.
Yeah.
One of the things he says, and I think it's true, is that threads for a long time wouldn't let you do a non-algorithmic feed that just follow follow people I follow,
right?
Which people need. That's the most important thing a Twitter or a Blue Sky can do. And threads, you had to follow whatever they thought was important. Then they decided no news, which took away a lot of the interesting things. Yeah, corporate interests.
So much of social networks are just the feel of it, like how you experience it emotionally or whatever. And Threads just feels like you're out in the wilderness talking to who knows who about God knows what. Whereas Blue Sky seems like the Twitter of old, where it seems relevant and timely and all that kind of stuff. So they're really losing on the vibe.
Yeah,
I agree. The thing about Threads that's weird for me, though, Mike, is that the For You feed for me on Threads is really good. It may be stuff from 12 hours ago, but it's stuff that they do that well.
Okay.
So
that's the algorithmic feed, isn't it?
So here's one from 5 hours ago. I appreciate that Jeffrey Goldberg did not sit on this news for a book that he writes 2 years from now. Right? That's the kind of thing that I want to read. And 5 hours, 1 day, 7 hours, it goes back and finds stuff that I find myself reading regularly. People I care about.
Completely parenthetically, I will say, isn't it great that there are so many great outlets for good, talented journalists like Mike Elgin, and that we can read them? I'm just sad that I have to subscribe. I mean, it's expensive, but I guess that's the true cost of news, isn't it? Or is it? There's so many good.
I would love to criticize one of the things on the rundown, which is the article by Dave Troy about Substack, the Substack dilemma.
Okay,
this is right in the what we're talking about. I see it
right here.
Yeah. This is yet another attempt to harshly criticize Substack, and I just don't get it. There's not a. I read this carefully. There's not a single. There's not a single valid criticism against Substack in this entire article.
They give money to Nazis, Mike.
No, they
chose to give. Yes, they did. They chose to give money to Nazis.
No,
they partnered with people who were doing, I think, very bad stuff.
The criticism was twofold. One is that the what's his name? I'm spacing on his name. Was in an interview with somebody, and it was a recorded video live interview. And he said, "Are you going to change your policy on this thing?" And he basically said, "Well, we have to look at that and stuff like that." So he is severely criticized for that. So if there are I'm a heavy user of Substack, and I've never, ever seen one Nazi anything in any form, in any way.
Well, maybe you haven't, but they had it there and they paid them. They paid
a lot of people, right? The model for Substack is we're going to get really good people, and we're going to encourage them to come here by giving them a guarantee on their subscriber fees. Yeah. And it was substantial. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars in many cases.
And the other argument here is that they take 10%, which is a really high percentage.
Okay, so it's a free market. Whatever the market will bear. If it's too high, then don't do it. But his point.
A lot of people use Beehive. What do you use, Mike? Are you use on? I
use Substack. I use Substack. But here's the thing. So there's a little bit of dishonesty by omission. I don't want to accuse him of dishonesty. I respect him as a journalist, but basically, he says things like you're kind of locked in. And he says, "Oh, sure, you can download your users and take them another thing, but it's very difficult to do that." And then he doesn't say why it's difficult. It's difficult because services like Ghost don't do the things that Substack does for you. Substack is great. I've been doing my newsletter, brace yourself, for 25 years.
Wow.
I've been on 6 or 7 different email
You've done
platforms.
all the hard ways.
I did it by hand in the old days. I did MailChimp. I did Postgres. Remember Postgres?
Yeah.
I've done it all, and I've moved it from place to place.
He licked the stamps on them.
Exactly, and so like, I really appreciate. Like, it harasses users for the subscription, not me. It's a standard. There's lots of people on Substack who are looking to pay for content, which is great. I like making money on the content that I write there. The other criticism that he has for it, which I think is completely invalid. I mean, besides that, but just one more point on that. Remember Platformer? Platformer famously moved from Substack to Ghost, and you could just feel the sort of, like, you don't really hear that much about Platformer anymore. I do, because I really seek out that content. But remember, like a year or two ago, Platformer everybody was talking about it all the time when they were on Substack. Yeah. They moved to Ghost, and it's like, where did they go? And so, and they did, yes, they brought their things with them, but all of the promotional things that went with that were really great.
It's funny, my Substack login is still Platformer at leofil.com or whatever. Yeah. Because I signed up, that was the first thing I signed up on the Substack for. Right. But that was back when Platformer had the inside story on the Twitter acquisition by Elon Musk.
Yes,
and maybe that's why they're less au courant.
Yeah,
because they don't have the scoops that they have.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the platform.
In my case, I'm not associating with Barry Weiss. I'm not associating with Ben Shapiro. That's a political opinion, but it's a strongly held political opinion I have, and they're in partnership with Barry Weiss, and I'm not supporting that.
Okay, so and this is
they're also in partnership with. Are they ever in partnership with people on the left?
Oh, 99%. There's so many lefty writers on Substack. It's not even funny. Virginia Heffernan. That goes on and on. There's that's all I see.
His point is not. Dave Troy's point is not wrong. You might consider that if you're considering starting a newsletter and going somewhere else.
Well, I mean, he doesn't emphasize the Nazi element. I think that whole thing is kind of faded out. I don't even know where he stands now. It feels to me like a complete non-issue. And
he says people looking to launch new content sites should avoid Substack entirely because of the substantial risk of capture. That's what he's
that's ridiculous. And then the other thing
we disagree, Mike.
There's no lock-in. You download. I've been on 7 platforms. I can just download it today, and by the end of the day, I'll be on an 8th
as long
platform.
as you can download all your users, right? But they're set up with a payment system that is tied to Substack. How do you migrate their payments?
I mean,
so you have a free newsletter.
I'd have to. I have a for pay and a free. Okay. My free one is pretty substantial, which I recommend for everybody to really provide value to the free subscribers. I believe in that. But it'd be a hassle to migrate the payments. But on the platforms I was on before, there was no payment. So it was so hard to do all that stuff. Right. And so I really appreciate it. But the other false argument he makes is that you're at risk of Substack fatigue because there's so many different people on there. Everybody's using it. So it's just too many writers on there. Well, that's complete BS. It's a free, the internet has too many writers too.
You can say that about the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think really
it's not unreasonable. I think both of you have points.
Yeah, we have different opinions.
Jeff doesn't need to be on Substack. I would not castigate Mike for being on Substack.
No, but what we're talking about here, Jeff's concerns are not really the points that were made in this article. So I'm taking down this article, and which has invalid points. I mean, I don't think Jeff would say that it's hard to download your subscribers, or there's any substantial lock-in. That's not my issue. Right? That's not your issue. And
this issue's political, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And here's the one that may also not be. Jeff may agree on this as well. He's saying basically that Substack is seen as part of a parallel establishment. I don't know if you've heard this, but it's like part of this oligarchy thing where they want to have a parallel government, a parallel media.
This is a big deal. Yes, it is. Yeah. It's a very Andreessen. It's a huge deal out in Network Nation.
And he's a big funder of Substack, right?
But as a journalist, I'm not eviscerating the mainstream media. the mainstream media is being eviscerated by all kinds of forces. And if the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or the Atlantic or anybody, if you're listening, if you want to pay me money to write whatever I want on my own schedule and for any length that I want, and if you want to pay me the amount of money that I need to be paid, I'll delete my Substack and take that job. But it's getting hard out there for a writer. Phrase. But
I mean, but the ones that succeed do quite well, right? I mean, Alex Kantrowitz is doing very well with his big technology blog.
Letters from an American supposedly makes millions of dollars a month. I mean, it's ridiculous, but I don't care about the outliers like that. The fact is that somebody who wants to do, I do write for them. I still write for Foundry now. Mm-hmm. Now it's Regent. Regent just bought TechCrunch and all the former IDG publications. But so I still have a foot in that realm. But I can see the writing on the wall, and I'm going to keep writing for many, many years. And so I've been building my paid subscription model, and I really appreciate Substack enabling me to do that, to live around the world, to be in different time zones all the time. Sometimes I can't write for 2 weeks. Sometimes I want to write every day for 3-4 days, and all of that freedom is available on Substack, and I really appreciate it. And
but not exclusive to Substack.
No. I'm not so exclusive.
I mean, Ben Thompson's on WordPress. He publishes with Pressable.
Yeah, see, but that's the thing. It's so hard. I just want to write. And I don't want to be formatting. I don't want to be dealing with finance.
This is like the argument of when in the early days of blogs, when Blogger came out, there are people who said, you shouldn't be using Blogger. You should use your own self-hosted website. Why give that money to, Ev Williams and eventually to Google? But it made it easy for people who didn't want to do. I mean, I've always done my own site pretty much.
Yeah.
But it made it easy for people who didn't want to do that. And also, I've never charged. And that's probably a barrier to entry to set up an e-commerce on a site.
What you will find when you go to Substack, and I invite everybody to do this, go there and root around and try to find, I dare you to find Nazi content or anything. It's just a huge repository of incredibly smart people writing really brilliant stuff. And many of them are making something of a living out of it. It's kind of a great thing, and nobody else has ever achieved this, as far as I know.
When you go to Substack.com, do they promote right-wing content? No, here's
I've never seen.
Weiss.
Well, I mean, I don't. There's nothing wrong with right-wing content.
Here's Ed Zitron.
Right.
Derek Guy, CGP Grey. There's Gary Marcus. We just had him on the show.
There was Unicorn Roast.
Here's Midas.
I don't know how much it would be them promoting that stuff as much as them.
Well, this is the social network
people
you're looking
are pointing
at
to that stuff usually. That's usually how
so how do I go to the newsletter network? I didn't even know they had a social network.
Yeah, it's called Notes. It's not great, but it's okay for people who are into newsletters and who are.
Is there a homepage for the newsletters that's independent of the newsletter? I mean, I go to your page.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I am on Substack. I just went to Substack.com.
Do people actually use Substack that way, though? Do people go to Substack to discover new
just
things?
Like the internet, they go to a specific place.
Directed to Substack, right?
Yeah.
Because
they really push the app, and the app is just a stream of the newsletters and podcasts that are also there. And you can do it by sort of like what do you call it? Content areas. And so, it's
my original complaint was, though, that I have so many subscriptions and it's really out of control.
And it really fools you into getting more. I spent days, a long day going through and killing things that I hadn't realized I subscribed to.
Would it be possible to have a platform where you give the platform $50 a month or whatever, and it then allows you to see everything on the platform and everybody gets a slice of it? Or
it's Medium.
Medium does that. Okay.
That's what they do.
But Substack is really dominant these days.
Yep.
Why?
Because it's so friendly to the writers. I mean, I'm looking at the suggestions. Here's who it's suggesting to me: Steve Wozniak, right? Pete Buttigieg has a Substack apparently.
Yep.
Jeff Pearlman, Nicole Weeks, Derek Thompson. It's pretty good algorithm for understanding the kind of content I would want. But it's really, the way I use Substack, frankly, like I barely open the app. I don't even go to the site unless I'm posting something.
Right.
I use something called Matter. It's an app called Matter.
It's a newsreader.
It's a newsreader, but it will go into your email, grab the newsletters, and put it into Matter. And so, it'll read it to you with an AI voice. And so, in fact, in preparation for this podcast, I actually grabbed 20 or so articles, put them into Medium, and while I was doing dishes and helping them move, I was listening to the articles on the rundown. Pretty great. That's how I do it. But the point is, we long-suffering newsletter publishers have been abused. We've been, I stopped doing my newsletter for like a couple of years, and when I went back, I'm like, I'm going to start my newsletter again. Newsletters are back. And I went in there and they're like, nope, you can't keep your list. So I had to start from zero and build it back up to the thousands that I have now. And it's like I've been through hell trying to be a newsletter publisher for 2.5 decades. And I love the fact that I can just open this thing up. I can do a nicely formatted newsletter very quickly. They handle the SEO. They handle I can upload massive videos. They just host that. And that's delivered so people can watch the videos from their inbox, and it's hosted by Substack. It's so nice.
Jeff, you're on Medium, right, Jeff? But you also have buzzmachine.com. Do you have something like Matter that you use to read newsletters?
No, I don't like newsletters. I can't stand newsletters. I unsubscribe to them constantly. I'll subscribe to them and get going. No offense.
There's some of the best writing is happening.
I know, but that's the problem. It's a closed world. I miss being on blogs. I miss that being open. And Medium, you can hold Mike just 1 second.
Yeah, but
on Medium, you can. It's more of a blog, but you can also subscribe and have it sent to you. That's the model that I prefer. Thinking now, in that sense,
Ghost does that too.
Isn't that? Yeah, Ghost does that too, which I like. Substack's not that different in a sense.
Yeah,
you're not obligated to do it. And if you subscribe to one newsletter there, it fools me into subscribing to 3 more. And then I had 96 that I didn't know I was subscribing to. And so my email was just a mess of them. And I don't read any of them as a result. It hurts that as a result. So the whole newsletter push took away, I think, from the blog world, which I regret.
But that's the problem with blogs. Blogs, nobody pays attention to blogs. I've been trying to...
They used to.
I know they used to, but nowadays nobody does. And Google has changed its algorithm to sort of like, they're second-class citizens now. And so the Substack's aggressive push to get people to read stuff is the boost that you need. And by the way, if you go to machinedesociety.ai, this is a blog. Like, it's just a blog.
Right.
Yes, they're pushing this other stuff. Yes, it's like, encouraging you to subscribe and all that kind of stuff. But it's a blog. It's in the cloud. It's free to read. And there it is. It's a blog, but it's a blog with benefits. And that's what we need if you're a blogger, because blogs are going nowhere. They're not growing.
Oh, it only works with Gmail Matter. It has to go through your Gmail inbox.
That's right.
I hate it. So many tools require Gmail. I mean, I understand it's the number one email, but I don't use it. So it's useless to me. I think did Matter get sold? I think I had Matter and used Matter. They got sold, right?
They recently sent an email to users that was really interesting. It's founded by 2 people whose names I don't recall, but they both got cancer in the same year.
Oh, yikes.
And they've both been in recovery, and they're both recovering, but they're kind of going along, and they're trying to raise money and stuff like that. But I think they're still owned by the original people.
Okay. Well, I've just re-signed up.
Yeah.
Because I like the idea. I mean, God, I spend almost every minute of every day going through news.
Yeah.
I use a newsreader called Tapestry, which connects also to social accounts and is a really great, easy way from the Icon Factory. Mac only, unfortunately, but it's a very useful little tool.
Yeah, the other benefit is you install the extension and you just click a button and whatever you have
now
on
it's
your
added
screen
to
goes
your
into
Matter.
it.
Yeah. I definitely spend more time with this. I feel like I used it, and then I don't know why I stopped using it, but Dig Wells Incorporated. All right, let's take a break. And the final minutes of the show, thank God, are coming.
My Chinese food is on order.
Oh, good. All right. They're coming up in just a moment. You're watching Intelligent Machines with, what are we having for dinner, Jeff?
Chinese. So I think I'm going to get some pork gyoza. No, that's Japanese. I'll just get dumplings.
They call them. It's also they have them in China. It's called gai bao.
Right, and then I'm going to have chicken with garlic and eggplant sauce, or chicken with garlic and eggplant sauce.
Sounds
no, chicken with eggplant and garlic sauce.
It's fantastic.
Eggplant and chicken sauce.
I believe I am tasked to make meatloaf tonight.
Oh, I love meatloaf. But do you put ketchup on top?
I have Serious Eats has a recipe
and mustard and stuff,
that involves making a ketchup-y kind of a glaze that you put on top, and there's some bacon involved.
And then the next day, the sandwiches.
It's best for sandwiches.
This is how white bread I am. Next day, it's white bread, a sandwich on white bread with Miracle Whip.
Miracle Whip, baby.
Heaven.
Sweet mother of... Well, I'm making patty melts.
He thought he was mad about Substack. Now he's really pissed.
So I'll tell you the bread that I'm using. It's homemade sourdough bread made with emmer.
Oh, yeah. You turned me on to these old wheats. Yes.
Yes. And so that's what I'm having.
I still have my Wolfgang wheat mill, so I can make my own flour from these heritage wheats.
Yeah. Yep.
I am making bagels these days pretty regularly, and it's wonderful. They're homemade bagels, nothing like it. Although I'm a little nervous, I have been using barley malt syrup to boil the bagels in to get the browning. But I was challenged by Amy Webb. She said, "Well, do you use lye?" I said, "What?" She said, "You got to use lye. That's not a bagel unless you boil it in lye." So I ordered some food-grade lye, which it says on the bottle can also be used as a drain cleaner. It also
you didn't piss off Amy?
It also said wear gloves and eye protection before using. No, it really, I looked it up. It says, AI told me lye and Elmer's glue are common ingredients. No, it is, in fact, what they use.
Rocks.
They use a very small, lye is just very alkaline. So you use a very small amount in a pot of water, and it helps it get brown, I guess.
And you can also use it to nixtamalize corn, presumably.
Yeah, and make pretzels. So who knew? Yeah. And now I have a lot of lye, if anybody... Because you can't buy a small amount of lye. it's an industrial grade product. No, I've been trying with the barley. I'm going to try it with lye this week, and we'll see what happens.
Nice.
Thank you, Mike Elga, for joining us. We will give a little plug to Kevin's business before we depart, because that's part of the deal. His son Kevin does an amazing thing called Chatterbox, which is a way for schools to teach kids about AI without invading their privacy.
That's right. You're looking at hellochatterbox.com. And yes, and this is speaking of Wolfram Alpha, one of the many skills that kids can use is they can build in, they have APIs that go to Wolfram Alpha. So if you want to do math type of problems or do any of the many things that Wolfram Alpha is great at, you can do that with a voice command through Chatterbox. And this is the only COPA compliant smart speaker that's legally usable in schools because it's so private. Part of the privacy is that giant button on the top, which doesn't listen until you press the button. And you have to be kind of nearby to use it. So you have to be nearby to press the button, for example. And so that combination of proximity and pushing the button, plus the fact that neither Chatterbox nor any of the companies that he accesses through the APIs know who the user is. They have no data, no information at all about who the user is. And so this has been a very difficult problem for him to achieve this, but it's totally private. And what he wants to do is make sure that kids get used to the idea that there is no monetization of their personal data. And so that's all very clear to kids. And what other products that are in the environment that we all use, the smartphones, the smart speakers, they all just sort of make us calloused in terms of they're getting all my data. What are you going to do? So this is something that he doesn't do for the kids. So it's very great. And it's very educational. And it's a makerspace in a box. It teaches kids to be makers of technology and not just passive consumers. So
always love giving this a plug. It's a great thing. hellochatterbox.com.
And thank you for that.
Yes. We're going to get our picks of the week and final thoughts as we wrap up this episode of Intelligent Machines in just a little bit with Jeff Jarvis, Mike Elgin filling in for Paris Martineau. I'm Leo Laporte. All right. That was our brief pause. And now it's time for your pick of the week. Shall I start with you? I'll start with you, Jeff.
Okay,
I can tell you want to.
I want to get my Chinese food.
Yeah, I can.
Yes, I'm going to do a real quick M&A report. And I found this interesting that all together in 1 week, the Skim was bought by Ziff Davis. Napster was bought by I think a private equity company.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yahoo was bought by an investment firm.
Yahoo?
Yeah, I'm sorry, TechCrunch.
Yes.
Was sold by Yahoo to an investment firm Regent.
Yes, which also bought Computer World, PC World, all those publications.
All the IDG stuff.
So I now work for the same company that TechCrunch.
It's so confusing. So confusing.
Yep.
The Skim. What was the Skim? SKIM.
The Skim was that great. It was a great newsletter. Aimed at women. That's why you don't know what it is. Young women. That's especially 2 reasons you don't know what it is. It was founded in 2012 by Danielle Weisberg and Carly Zakin, providing subscription-only newsletter. Yeah, it was a digest of news stories intended to be simple and easy to read.
Nice.
It was really well done, very popular in the day. But, things have their heat and their cool.
Well, it's been sold doesn't mean it's cooled. It might mean that it's now on its way to the moon.
Well, yeah, and working for Ziff Davis is a very good place to land.
I think so.
We like those folks.
I used to work for them.
Yeah.
I think.
I consulted for them once.
Yeah.
So that was it for me.
Mike has a toy for us or two.
Yes. Okay. So, as you know, I'm a Ray-Ban Meta enthusiast and that I travel around to foreign language countries. They have an experimental feature on Ray-Ban Metas, which is live translation.
Oh.
Once you launch that feature, it will just be listening constantly. You don't have to do anything. And anytime it hears anything spoken, it will translate it. They have 3 languages right now, French, Spanish, and Italian, which is perfect for me because that's most of the countries I go to speak those languages. And somebody talks to you in Italian and you hear the English whispered in your ear. On the app, it'll show you when you say something back in English, it'll show you what you said in English, followed by what that translation would be into Italian or whatever language you have selected. Okay, so this feature, it works pretty well. It's not bad. You can't use it for like sitting around a table with 5 people because you go nuts because it's like there's a delay and you can't do it. But if like you're just want to go up and ask somebody a question, you'll understand the answer. If people are giving you instructions like at the airport or whatever, you can understand those. It's really nice. Here's something I've never heard anybody talk about or write about. In addition to live translation, they have something called live AI. So this is like the Google thing, the Gemini thing we were talking about earlier, where it's just getting the video feed and you're interacting, asking questions about what it sees. So live AI works just like that through the glasses. Glasses is the right place for this. It's not the phone. Nobody's going to use it on the phone, but in glasses, it's amazing. So you say, launch live AI, and you can it will be silent, doesn't say anything, and you can just say, well, what kind of business am I in? And it based on what it saw through your glasses, it will tell you details. Now, here's the thing that I've never heard anybody talk about. It also does translation. So if you look at a sign and say, what does this sign say in English? It will tell you. And I've tested it on a gazillion languages, including Japanese, including other things, and it always translates it correctly into the language. And so to use live AI as a visual language translator is really incredible. And really, I think it's the future of where we're going. And one of the things we're going to be able to do with AI glasses.
So to do this, I have to sign up for Meta's early access program.
That's correct. That is correct. Which I presume
I can do that in the app.
Yes, I think so. It may not happen right away. So if you try to do this here, but anyway, this is my point is not, go buy Ray-Ban Meta glasses and use this feature. My point is this is the future that we're all going to have access to within a year or two. This is going to be very commonplace. It's going to be kind of a cool feature. And very quickly, I want to do one more Ray-Ban Meta thing that is really kind of ridiculous. There's a startup that's offering a product called a Metaport. And what this does is it adds a battery extends the battery for your glasses.
But you look like a dork.
Yes, exactly. It's ridiculous. It clamps onto the front and the side, and you kind of look like you're wearing Google Glass. So we're back to that glass hole look, that's so popular with the kids nowadays.
Oh my God! It looks like it's 3D printed. It looks like it's a licorice turd on your glasses. I don't know what it is.
That would be a better brand name than Metaport. Licorice turd. That would be.
Wait a minute. They have clear ones. So
I would get the orange one. Get the orange one.
Orange.
Really
baby.
Draws attention.
Well, that's what I figure. If you're going to do it, flaunt it, right?
Go
Just
big.
go all out.
Big.
Go big or go home.
Or both.
What do you get for battery life? I never wear these long enough to find out.
It's fine. You get a few hours with just the glasses, and then the case itself is a battery. So you put them in the case, even if it's not plugged in, you get a few more hours.
Right. Just getting the update to 13.0. So as soon as I do, I will sign up for the early access program.
I have a quick
though
question,
these glasses really are not flattering.
How does it work with, like, say, the difference between like Mexican Spanish and Spain Spanish?
So far, it works great. I've done it in Mexico. I've heard Spanish from people who have thickly accented. They're Zapotec speakers, and they speak Spanish with an accent and understood it fine. I've also had problems with it. Like, we were in a restaurant one time, and there are people playing pool at a pool table, like far away, and they were talking to each other, and it was just giving me all of that. I was trying to mind my own business, and just kept giving me the English translation of what they were saying. Sometimes when somebody's right in front of you, it doesn't quite pick it up. And here's the funniest part. If somebody says something in English, it will translate that English into English. And sometimes it mistranslates it. From English to English.
That's
my wife will say something to me, and then it gives me the wrong translation in English.
Doesn't round trip well.
Yeah, but my larger point is that this is every device that is anywhere near our ears, headphones, earbuds, AirPods.
Apple will do this with the AirPods for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Language
translation, and it's gonna harm the cause of learning foreign languages, because people are going to be like, well, why bother? But we're gonna, the problem of people speaking foreign languages is going to be erased almost by AI within the next couple of years.
Well, we've erased Jeff Jarvis.
I gotta go. The restaurant closes.
Thank you, Jeff. Take care. Go get some Chinese food. Jeff Jarvis, buzzmachine.com, his latest, The Web We Weave. Gutenberg parenthesis now out in paperback, all at jeffjarvis.com. Take care, Jeff. Thank you.
Bye, Jeff.
Goodbye. Thank you, Mike Elgin. Always a pleasure. Appreciate your filling in for Paris this week. And
anytime.
Have a wonderful time in Sicily.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
I will
jealous.
Try. I'll do it for you guys.
Your life
Thanks
is
to all of you. I can see you, with these glasses. I could see Joe and Sally and Timmy and little Johnny. And
that's a reference most of these kids won't get.
I can see you all. Romper, stomper, domper doo. We do this show you can go. You go. You guys can go. I'll finish up all alone here. Thank you. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Dale.
Don't want to make them stick around. We do this show every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. We kick things off, or at least we have been since the kind of rebranding to Intelligent Machines, with an interview with somebody doing something interesting in AI, like our guest, Gary Rivlin, this week. Fantastic book, by the way, AI Valley, just out. So tune in and make sure you don't miss that first half hour of the show. Afterwards, we cover AI news and other news and picks of the week. Paris will be back in 2 weeks. I will be back next week, and I hope you will be too. You can watch us live if you're a Club Twit member in the Club Twit Discord. Always a great place to hang. But you can also watch on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. Wherever you want to watch the stream, you can, and you can chat with us in that stream until they revoke Section 230. We'll have those chat rooms, and I see everybody talking in there right now, so it's nice. Endless Music said, he said my name. Hi, Oscar. I see you. After the fact, they're just telling me, after the fact, you can watch the show at our website. Where is that? twit.im. You can also watch a YouTube channel dedicated to the video of Intelligent Machines. Or best thing to do, subscribe in your favorite podcast client. And that way you'll get it automatically as soon as we're done cleaning it up, taking out the swear words and all of that. You know what I mean? We like to make it accessible to the youngsters. Yes. Thank you all for being here. Join the club if you're not already a member. twit.tv/clubtwit, $7 a month for ad-free versions of all our shows and access to the Discord. Lots of special events going on too. We got some big ones planned. Thank you to Benito Gonzalez, our producer and booker, for putting this all together, flipping the switches. Thanks to you for joining us. I'll see you next time on Intelligent Machines. Bye-bye.
I'm not